The Book of Enoch, narrated by Jeremy Capp. Introduction, Part 1. This translation. This new translation is based on the 2009 revision of George H. Shaw's translation of 1882, with many corrections made from Michael A. Knibb's scholarly translation of the Ethiopian manuscripts and recent findings among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Further revisions have been made from James Trimm's Hebrew study of the Ethiopian translation. This translation is among the first to include every addition from the Greek fragments, as well as the Aramaic fragments found in Qumran. The most notable of these additions is the information about the three classes of giants. The great giants are stated by Synkelus to have been three kinds, a statement that must have been in the original, as it is presupposed in chapters 86 and 88, verses clearly written by the same author. The Book of Jubilees, chapter 7, divides them into Jerbach, Nephal, and El-Jo. The Book of Jubilees says that only the third class of giants destroyed mankind. Many other revisions have been made to revise Old English words to their modern counterparts, and to make this book's language conform better to the books within the Holy Bible. The chapter and verse order of the prophecy of the 10 weeks follows Michael Knibb's translation. This text has been entered into the free domain and is free of copyrights. Introduction, Part 2. Is the Book of Enoch Scripture? The Book of Enoch was treasured by the ancient Nazarenes as an inspired book of prophecy authored by Enoch himself. Jesus' own half-brother Jude quotes from the Book of Enoch, saying, Jude 1:14-15, Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about these men. See, the Lord is coming with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones, to judge everyone, and to convict all the ungodly of all the ungodly acts they have done in the ungodly way, and of all the harsh words ungodly sinners have spoken against him. Some commentators have tried to minimize the importance of this quotation, claiming that Jude was only quoting from the Book of Enoch in the way Paul quoted Greek philosophers. In fact, there are two very important features in Jude's citation. First of all, while the Book of Enoch is quoted, specifically chapter 1, verse 9, Jude attributes his quote not to the Book of Enoch, but to the man Enoch, Enoch seventh from Adam. Since we have copies of the Book of Enoch which predate the Book of Jude, this quote tells us that Enoch, seventh from Adam, wrote the Book of Enoch. Secondly, Jude uses the word prophecy. Jude tells us that this quote from Enoch, which comes from the Book of Enoch, is prophecy. That is a very important statement. Regarding prophecy, Peter writes, 2 Peter 1, verses 20-21, Above all, you must understand that no prophecy of Scripture came about by the prophet's own interpretation. For prophecy never had its origin in the will of man, but men spoke from God as they were carried along by the Holy Spirit. So if, as Jude tells us, the Book of Enoch is prophecy, then Peter tells us that it was inspired by the Holy Spirit. Timothy has some important words for us about Scripture that is inspired, 2 Timothy 3, verses 16-17. All Scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness, so that the man of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. So if the Book of Enoch is prophecy, then it was inspired by the Holy Spirit. And if Enoch was inspired by the Spirit, then it is profitable for teaching and for rebuking and for correcting and for training in righteousness. In other words, if Jude is telling the truth, then we should be using the Book of Enoch as Scripture and not taking it lightly. As a matter of fact, the ancient Nazarenes treasured the Book of Enoch and used it alongside the book we know today as canon. This is evidenced by the fact that Jude quotes Enoch. R. H. Charles listed 128 locations where the writings of the New Testament is clearly influenced by statements in the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch was used within Judaism at least as early as the 2nd century BCE. 7 fragmentary Aramaic copies were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Jewish Zohar writings also cite the Book of Enoch by name, Zohar 1:37b, and makes much use of its account of the fallen angels Semjaza and Azazel. The earliest Gentile Christians also accepted and made use of the Book of Enoch. Many of the so-called Church Fathers either quoted Enoch or made use of it. Among these were the author of the Epistle of Barnabas, Justin Martyr, 2nd century, Irenaeus, 2nd century, Clement of Alexandria, 2nd century, and Origen, 3rd century. Tertullian, 160-230 CE, even called the book Holy Scripture. The book was even canonized by the Ethiopian Church. Enoch chapter 1, verse 9. Behold, he comes with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones to execute judgment upon all, and to destroy all the evil ones. And he will convict all flesh of all the works of their wickedness which they have committed, and of all the evil which the ungrateful have spoken against him. Hebrews 11, verse 5. By faith Enoch was taken from this life, so that he did not experience death. He could not be found, because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. There you have it. The book of Enoch is a God-breathed prophecy inspired by the Holy Spirit. And Enoch, the man who wrote it, pleased God. Jesus said in Matthew 4, verse 4, "Man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." I hope you enjoy this audio presentation of the book of Enoch. 1. Enoch's blessing to the ungodly. These are the words of Enoch's blessing, as he blessed the elect and righteous who will live in the days of tribulation, which is prepared for the removal of all the wicked and ungodly. Enoch began his speech and said, "There was a righteous man whose eyes were opened by the Lord, and he saw a sacred vision in the heavens, which the angels showed to me. And I heard everything from them, and I understood what I saw. But it was not for this generation, but for a future generation that will come. Concerning the elect I spoke, and I uttered a speech concerning them. The Holy and Great One will come out of his dwelling, and the eternal God will walk from there upon Mount Sinai, and he will appear with his host, and he will appear in the strength of his power from heaven. Every creature will be afraid, even the watchers will shake, and fear and great trembling will seize them up to the ends of the earth. The high mountains will be shaken, and the high hills will be made low, melting like wax over a flame. The earth will sink, and everything that is on the earth will be destroyed, and there will be judgment upon all, and upon all the righteous. But for the righteous he will make peace, and he will keep his elect safe, and mercy will be granted to them. They will all belong to God, to prosper and be blessed, and the light of God will shine on them. He will come with 10,000 holy ones, to execute judgment upon them, and to destroy the ungodly, and to contend with all the flesh concerning everything that the sinners and the ungodly have said and done against him. 2. God's laws. Consider all the events in the sky, how the lights in the sky never change their courses, how each rises and sets in order, each at its proper time, and they never transgress their law. Consider the earth, and understand from the work that is done upon it, from first to last, that no work of God is ever irregular in appearing. Consider the summer and the winter, how the whole earth is full of water, and the clouds, dew, and rain rest upon it. Consider and see how the trees appear withered, and all their leaves are stripped, with the exception of the 14 trees which never strip, but remain with the old leaves until the new come after 2 or 3 years. And again, consider the days of summer, how at its beginning the sun is hot above it. You seek shelter and shade because of the heat of the sun, and the earth burns with such scorching heat that you cannot walk upon the earth or upon a rock, because of its heat. Consider how the trees are covered with green leaves and bear fruit, and understand in respect of everything, and recognize how he who lives forever made all these things for you, and how his works are before him in each succeeding year, and all his works serve him and never change. But as God has decreed, so everything is done. And consider how the seas and rivers together complete their tasks. But you have not continued with, nor observed, the law of the Lord. But you have transgressed, and have spoken proud and harsh words with your unclean mouth against his magnificence. You hard of heart, you will have no peace. And because of this your days will be cursed, and you will devastate the years of your life. And this eternal curse will increase, and you will not be given mercy. In those days you will make your name into an eternal curse to all the righteous, and they will curse you sinners forever. But for the elect there will be light, joy, and peace, and they will inherit the earth. But for you, the ungodly, there will be a curse. When wisdom is given to the elect, they will all live, and will never again do wrong, either through forgetfulness or through pride. And those who possess this wisdom will be humble. They will never again do wrong, and they will not be judged in all the days of their life, and they will not die of wrath or anger. But they will complete the number of days of their life, and their life will grow in serenity, and the years of their joy will increase in gladness and eternal peace all the days of their life. 3. Rebels among the watchers. It came to pass, when the sons of men had increased, that in those days beautiful and attractive daughters were born to them. And the watchers, the sons of heaven, saw them and desired them. And they said to one another, Come, let us choose wives for ourselves from the children of men, and let us father children for ourselves. But Semjaza, who was their leader, said to them, I fear you may not follow through with this deed, and I alone will pay the penalty for this great sin. So they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath, and bind one another with a mutual curse, not to turn away, any of us, from this plan, but to carry it out effectively. Then they all swore together, and all bound one another with a mutual curse to it. And they were in all 200, and they descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called this mountain Hermon, because on it they swore and bound one another with curses. And these are the names of their leaders: Semjaza, who was their leader, Urakiba, Ramiel, Kokabel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Daniel, Ezekiel, Barakiel, Azazel, Armaros, Batriel, Ananel, Zachiel, Samsiel, Satael, Turiel, Yamiel, Araziel. These are the leaders of the groups of 10, the 200 angels, their lieutenants, and all the others were with them. They took every woman of their choosing, and they began to cohabitate with them, and were promiscuous with them. They taught them charms and spells, and they showed them the cutting of roots and trees. And the women became pregnant, and gave birth to 3 races. First, the great giants, whose height was each 30 cubits. Then the great giants fathered the Nephilim, and the Nephilim engendered the Eliud, and they existed, increasing in power according to their greatness. These devoured all that the labor of men produced, until men were unable to sustain them. Then the giants turned against mankind, in order to devour them. And they began to sin against birds, and against animals, and against reptiles, and against fish, and they devoured one another's flesh, and drank their blood. Then all the earth complained about the lawless ones. Azazel taught men to make swords, and daggers, and shields, and breastplates, and how to make gold into coins. And he showed them the fabrication of mirrors, and the art of making bracelets, and ornaments, and the art of making up the eyes, and of beautifying the eyelids, and the most precious of stones, and all kinds of colored dyes. And the world was changed. There was great ungodliness and much fornication. Women began acting lewdly, and many went astray, and all their ways became corrupt. Semjaza taught all those who cast spells and cut roots. Armaros, the loosings of spells. Barakel taught astrology. Kokabel taught omens. Tamiel taught the signs of the sun, and Azradel taught the path of the moon. And at the destruction of men they cried out, and their voices reached heaven. Then Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel looked down from heaven, and saw the mass of blood that was being shed on the earth, and all the evil that was being done on the earth. And they said to one another, Let the devastated earth cry out with the sound of their cries, up to the gates of heaven. And now to you, O holy ones of heaven, the souls of men complain, saying, Bring judgment to us from the Most High. And they said to their Lord, the King, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, your glorious throne endures for all the generations of the world. Bless and praise your name. You have made everything, and the power over everything is yours. Everything is revealed and open in front of you, and you see everything. There is nothing that can be hidden from you. See then what Azazel has done, how he has taught all iniquity on the earth, and revealed the eternal secrets that are made in heaven. And Semjaza has made known spells, he to whom you gave authority to rule over those who are with him. They have cohabitated with the daughters of men, lain with those women, became unclean, and revealed these sins to them. And these women gave birth to giants, and because of that the whole earth has been filled with blood and iniquity. Now the souls which have died cry out and complain up to the gates of heaven, and their lament has ascended, and they will not go out in the sight of the iniquity which is being committed on the earth. You know everything before it happens, and you know this, and what awaits each of them. But you say nothing to us. What now should we do with them about this? 4. The Most High of the Watchers speaks out. Then the Most High, the great and holy one, spoke, and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech, and said to him, Say to him in my name, Hide yourself, and reveal to him the end, which is coming, because the whole earth will soon be destroyed. A great flood is about to come over all the earth, and all that is in it will be destroyed. Now teach him so that he may escape, and his offspring may survive for the whole earth. And further, the Lord said to Raphael, Bind Azazel by his hands and his feet, and throw him into the darkness. Split open the desert which is in Dudael, and throw him there. Throw jagged and sharp stones on him, and cover him with darkness. Let him stay there forever, and cover his face, so he may never see the light, so that on the great day of judgment he may be hurled into the fire, and restore the earth, which the angels have ruined, and announce the restoration of the earth. For I will restore the earth, so that not all the sons of men will be destroyed by the knowledge which the watchers have made known and taught to their sons. The whole earth has been ruined by the work and teaching of Azazel. Therefore all sin will be ascribed to him. Then the Lord said to Gabriel, Proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the sons of the fornicators, and destroy the sons of the fornicators and the sons of the watchers from among them. Send them out, and turn them against one another, and let them destroy themselves in battle, for their days will not be long. They will petition you, but the petitioners will gain nothing in respect of them, for they hope for eternal life, and that each of them will live life for 500 years. Then the Lord said to Michael, Go, inform Semjaza, and the others with him who have associated with women, corrupting themselves along with them in all their uncleanness. When all their sons kill each other, and after they see the destruction of their loved ones, bind them for 70 generations under the hills of the earth, until the day of their judgment and of their end, until the judgment which is for all eternity is accomplished. In those days they will be led into the abyss of fire and torment, and they will be shut up in prison for all eternity. Then Semjaza will be burned, and the others destroyed with them. Together they will be bound until the end of all generations. Destroy all the souls of lust in the sons of the watchers, for they have wronged mankind. And destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and every evil work will cease. Then all the righteous will be humble, and will live until they father thousands. And all the days of their youth and their old age they will fulfill in peace. In those days the whole earth will be tilled in righteousness, and all of it will be planted with trees, and it will be filled with blessing. And they will plant all the pleasant trees on it, and they will plant vines on it. And the vine that is planted on it will produce fruit in abundance. And every seed that is sown on it, each measure will produce 1,000. And each measure of oil will produce 10 baths of oil. And you cleanse the earth from all wrong, and from all iniquity, and from all sin, and from all ungodliness, and from all the uncleanness which is brought about on the earth. Then all the sons of men will be righteous, and all the nations will serve and bless me, and all will worship me. And the earth will be cleansed from all corruption, and from all sin, and from all wrath, and from all torment, and I will not again send a flood upon it, for all generations forever. In those days I will open the storehouses of blessing, which are in heaven, so that I may send them down upon the earth, upon the works and upon the works of the sons of men. Peace and truth will be united for all the days of eternity, and for all the generations of eternity. 5. Enoch meets the holy watchers. Then Enoch disappeared, and none of the sons of men knew where he was hidden, where he was, or what had happened to him. All his doings were with the holy ones and with the watchers in his days. And I, Enoch, blessed the great Lord and King of eternity. And the watchers called to me, Enoch the scribe, and said to me, Enoch, scribe of righteousness, go and inform the watchers of heaven, who have left the high heaven and the holy eternal place, and have corrupted themselves with women, and have done as the sons of men do, and have taken wives for themselves, and have become completely corrupt on the earth. They will have neither peace nor forgiveness of sin on earth, nor will they rejoice in their sons. They will see the slaughter of their beloved ones, and they will lament and petition forever over the destruction of their sons. But they will have neither mercy nor peace. Then Enoch went to Azazel and said, You will have no peace. A severe sentence has come out against you, that you must be bound. You will have neither rest nor mercy, nor the granting of any request, because of the wrong which you have taught, and because of all the works of blasphemy and wrong and sin which you have shown to the sons of men. And then I went and spoke to them all together, and they were all afraid. Fear and trembling seized them. They asked me to write out a record of a petition for them, so that they might receive forgiveness, and to take a record of their request up to the Lord in heaven. For they were not able, from then on, to speak, and they did not raise their eyes to heaven out of shame for their sins, for which they had been condemned. Then I wrote out the record of their petition, and their request in regards to their spirits, and the deeds of each one of them, and in regard to what they asked, that they should obtain forgiveness and tolerance. So I went and sat down by the waters of Dan, in the land of Dan, which is southwest of Hermon, and I read out the record of their petition, until I fell asleep. Then a dream came to me. Visions fell upon me, and I saw a vision of wrath, that I should speak to the sons of heaven and rebuke them. And I woke up and went to them, and they were all sitting gathered together as they mourned in Ubal-Sael, which is between Lebanon and Senir, with their faces covered. And I spoke in front of all of them about the visions that I had seen in my sleep. And I began to speak these words to reprove the watchers of heaven. 6. The Book of Reproof. This book is the word of righteousness and of reproof for the watchers who are from eternity, as the Holy and Great One commanded me in that vision. I saw in my sleep what I will now explain with the tongue of flesh, and with my breath, which the Great One has given men in their mouth, so they might speak with it and understand with their heart. As he has created and appointed men to understand the word of knowledge, so he has created and appointed me to reprove the watchers, the sons of heaven. I wrote out your petition, but in my vision it appeared that your request would not be granted to you for all the days of eternity, and complete judgment has been decreed against you, and you will have no peace. From now on you will not ascend into heaven for all eternity, and it has been decreed that you will be bound on earth for all the days of eternity. But before this, you will have seen the destruction of your beloved sons, and you will never be able to enjoy them, but they will fall before you by the sword. Your request will not be granted in respect of them or in respect of yourselves. And while you weep and beg, you don't speak a single word from the writings which I have written. And the vision appeared to me as follows. Clouds called me in the vision, and mist called to me. The path of the stars and flashes of lightning hurried me and drove me. In the vision winds caused me to fly, and hurried me, and lifted me up into the sky. I proceeded until I came near a wall which was made of hailstones, and a river of fire surrounded it, and it began to make me afraid. I went into the river of fire and came near a large house, which was built of hailstones, and the wall of that house was like a mosaic of hailstones, and its floor was snow. Its roof was like the path of the stars, and flashes of lightning, and among them were fiery cherubim, and their sky was like water. There was a fire burning around its walls, and its door was ablaze with fire. I went into that house, and it was as hot as fire, yet as cold as snow, and there was neither pleasure nor life in it. Fear covered me, and trembling took hold of me. As I was shaking and trembling, I fell on my face. I looked in the vision, And I saw another house, which was larger than the former, and all its doors were open before me, and it was built of rivers of fire. And in everything it so excelled in glory and splendor and size, so that I am unable to describe its glory and size to you. Its floor was fire, and above lightning, in the path of the stars, and its roof was also a burning fire. I looked, and I saw a high throne in it, and its appearance was like ice, and its surrounding like the shining sun, and the sound of cherubim. From underneath the high throne there flowed out rivers of fire, so that it was impossible to look at. He who is great in glory sat upon it, and his clothing was brighter than the sun, and whiter than any snow, and no angel could enter. And at the appearance of the face of him who is honored and praised, no creature of flesh could look. A sea of fire burned around him, and a great fire stood in front of him, and none of those around him came near him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood in front of him, but he needed no holy counsel. The holy ones who were near him did not leave by night or day, and never departed from him. And until then I had been prostrate on my face, trembling. And the Lord called to me with his own voice, and said to me, "Come here, Enoch, to my holy word." And he lifted me up and brought me near the door, and I looked with my face down. He answered me and said to me with his voice, "Listen, don't be afraid, Enoch, you blameless man and scribe of righteousness. Come here and hear my voice. Now go to the watchers of heaven, who sent you to petition on their behalf, and say, you should petition on behalf of men, not men on behalf of you. Why have you left the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and lain with women, becoming unclean with the daughters of men, and taking wives for yourselves, and doing as the sons of the earth, fathering giant sons? You were spiritual, holy, living in eternal life, but you became unclean with the women, and fathered children through the blood of flesh, and lusted after the blood of mankind, producing flesh and blood as they do, who die and are destroyed. For this reason I give men wives, so that they might sow seed in them, and so that children will be born by them, so that deeds will be done on the earth. But you, formerly, were spiritual, living an eternal, immortal life for all the generations of the world. For this reason I did not arrange wives for you, because the dwelling of the spiritual ones is in heaven. And now the giants who were born from body and flesh will be called unclean spirits on the earth, and on the earth will be their dwelling. These evil spirits came out from their flesh because they were created from above. From the holy watchers was their origin and first foundation. Evil spirits they will be on the earth, and unclean spirits of the evil ones they will be called. The dwelling of the spirits of heaven is in heaven, but the dwelling of the spirits of the earth, who were born on the earth, is earth. The spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth, and cause sorrow. They eat no food, do not thirst, and are not observed by the eyes. And these spirits will rise against the sons of men and against the women, because they came out of them during the days of slaughter and destruction. The death of the giants, wherever the spirits have gone out from their bodies, their flesh will be destroyed before the judgment. In this way they will remain destroyed until the day of the great consummation is accomplished, upon the great age, upon the watchers and the ungodly ones. Now to the watchers, who sent you to petition on their behalf, who were formerly in heaven, say, you were in heaven, but the good secrets had not yet been revealed to you, for you knew only worthless mysteries. This you made known to women in the hardness of your hearts. And through this mystery the women and the men caused evil to increase on the earth. Therefore say to them, you will have no peace. 7. Enoch stays for a while with the watchers. Then they took me to a place where they appeared like burning fire, and when they wished, they made themselves look like men. And they led me to a place of storm, and to a mountain, the tip of whose summit reached to heaven. I saw lighted places, and thunder in the outermost places, in its depths a bow of fire, and arrows and their quivers, and a sword of fire, and all the flashes of lightning. Then they took me to the water of life, as it is called, and to the fire of the west, which receives every setting of the sun. Then I came to a river of fire, whose fire flows like water, and pours out into the great sea, which is towards the west. I saw all the great rivers, and I reached the great darkness, and went where all flesh walks. I saw the mountains of darkness of winter, and the place where the waters of all the deep pour out. I saw the mouths of all the rivers of the earth, and the mouth of the deep. I saw the storehouses of all the winds, and I saw how with them he has adorned all creation, and I saw the fountains of the earth. Then I saw the cornerstone of the earth, and I saw the four winds which support the earth and the sky. I saw how the winds stretch out the height of heaven, and how they position themselves between heaven and earth. These are the pillars of heaven. I saw the winds which turn the sky and cause the orb of the sun and all the stars to set. I saw the winds on the earth which support the clouds, and I saw the paths of the angels. At the end of earth I could see the firmament of heaven above. Then I went toward the south, and it was burning day and night, where there were 7 mountains of precious stones, 3 toward the east and 3 towards the south. Those towards the east were of colored stone, and one was of pearl, and one of healing stone, and those towards the south of red stone. And the middle one reached to heaven, like the throne of the Lord, of stibium, and the top of the throne was of sapphire. I saw a burning fire in what is inside the mountains, and I saw a place there beyond the great earth. Here the waters gathered together. I saw a deep chasm of the earth, with pillars of heavenly fire, and I saw among them fiery pillars of heaven, which were falling, and as regards both height and depth they were immeasurable. Beyond this chasm I saw a place, and it had neither the sky above it, nor the foundation of earth below it. There was no water on it, and no birds, but it was a desert place. And I saw a terrible thing there, 7 stars like great burning mountains. Like a spirit questioning me, the angel said, "This is the place of the end of heaven and earth. This is the prison for the stars of heaven and the host of heaven, and the stars which roll over the fire. These are the ones which transgressed the command of the Lord from the beginning of their rising, because they did not come out at their proper times. And he was angry with them, and bound them until the time of the consummation of their sin, in the year of mystery." Then Uriel said to me, "The spirits of the angels who were promiscuous with women will stand here, and they, assuming many forms, made mankind unclean, and will lead men astray so that they sacrifice to unclean spirits as gods. And they will stand there until the great judgment day, on which they will be judged, so that an end will be made of them. But their wives, having led astray the angels of heaven, will become peaceful. And I, Enoch, alone saw the sight, the ends of everything, and no man has seen what I have seen." 8. The angels who keep watch. These are the names of the holy angels who keep watch. Uriel, one of the holy angels who is over the world and over Tartarus. Raphael, one of the holy angels who is over the spirits of men. Raguel, one of the holy angels who takes vengeance on the world and on the lights. Michael, one of the holy angels, namely, the one put in charge of the best part of mankind, in charge of the nations. Sariel, one of the holy angels, who is in charge of the spirits of men who cause the spirits to sin. Gabriel, one of the holy angels who is in charge of paradise, and of the cherubim and the seraphim. Rumiel, one of the holy angels, whom God set over those who will rise. Then I went around to a place where nothing at all was made, and I saw a terrible thing, neither the high heaven nor the firm ground, but a desert place, prepared and terrible. And there I saw 7 stars of heaven, bound on it together, like great mountains, and burning like fire. Then I said, "For what sin have they been bound, and why have they been thrown here?" Then Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me and led me, spoke to me and said, "Enoch, about whom do you ask? About whom do you inquire, ask, and care? These are some of the stars which transgress the command of the Lord Most High, and they have been bound here until 10,000 ages are completed, the number of days of their sin." From there I went to another place, more terrible than that. And I saw a terrible thing. There was a great fire there, which burned and blazed, and the fire had a cleft reaching into the abyss, full of great pillars of fire which were made to fall. Neither its extent nor its size could I see, nor could I see its source. Then I said, "This place is terrible and very painful to look at." Then Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered me. He answered me and said, "Enoch, why do you have such fear and terror because of this terrible place, and in front of this pain?" He said to me, "This place is the prison of the angels, and there they will be held forever." And from there I went to another place, and he showed me in the west a large and high mountain, and a hard rock, and 4 beautiful places. Inside it was deep, wide, and very smooth. How smooth is that which rolls, and deep and dark to look at. Then Raphael, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered me and said to me, "These beautiful places are there so that the spirits, the souls of the dead, might be gathered into them. They were created for them, so that here they might gather the souls of the sons of men. And they made these places, where they will keep them until the day of judgment, and until their appointed time. And that appointed time will be long, until the great judgment comes upon them." I saw the spirits of the sons of men who were dead, and their voices reached heaven and complained. Then I asked Raphael, the angel who was with me, and said to him, "Whose spirit is this? Whose voice reaches heaven and complains like this?" He answered me and said, "This spirit is the one that came out of Abel, whom Cain his brother killed. And he will complain about him until his offspring are destroyed from the face of the earth, and his offspring perish from among the offspring of men." Then I asked about him, and about judgment on all, and I said, "Why is one separated from the other?" And he answered me and said, "These 3 places were made in order that they might separate the spirits of the dead, and the souls of the righteous have been separated in this manner. This is the spring of water, and on it the light. Likewise a place has been created for sinners, when they die and are buried in the earth, and judgment has not come upon them during their life. But here the souls will be separated for this great torment, until the great day of judgment and punishment and torment for those who curse forever, and of vengeance on their souls. And there he will bind them forever. Truly he is from the beginning of the age, and a place has been separated for the souls of those who complain, and give information about their destruction, about when they were killed in the days of the sinners. Therefore a place has been created for the souls of men who are not righteous, but sinners, accomplished in wrongdoing, and with the wrongdoers will be their lot. But their souls will not be killed on the day of judgment, nor will they rise from here." Then I blessed the Lord of glory and said, "Blessed be my Lord, the Lord of glory and righteousness, who rules everything forever." And from there I went to another place, towards the west, to the ends of the earth, and I saw a fire that burned and ran, without resting or ceasing from running, by day or by night, but continued in exactly the same way. And I asked, saying, "What is this which has no rest?" Then Raguel, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered me and said, "This burning fire, whose course you saw towards the west, is the fire of all the lights of heaven." 9. The fragrant trees. From there I went to another place of the earth, and he showed me a mountain of fire that blazed day and night. I went towards it and saw 7 magnificent mountains. All were different from one another, and valuable and beautiful stones, and all were precious, and their appearance glorious, and their form was beautiful. 3 towards the east, 1 fixed firmly on another, and 3 towards the south, 1 on another, and deep and rugged valleys, none of which were near each other. And there was a 7th mountain in the middle of these, and in their height they were all like the seat of a throne, and fragrant trees surrounded it. There was among them a tree such as which I have never smelled, and none of them or any others were like it. It smells more fragrant than any fragrance, and its leaves and its flowers and its wood never wither. Its fruit is excellent, and its fruit is like clusters of dates on a palm. Then I said, "Look at this beautiful tree, so beautiful to look at, and pleasant are its leaves." and its fruit very delightful in appearance. Then Michael, one of the holy and honored angels, who was with me and was in charge of them, answered me and said, Enoch, why do you ask about the fragrance of this tree, and why do you inquire to learn? Then I, Enoch, answered him, saying, I wish to learn about everything, but especially about this tree. And he answered me, saying, This high mountain which you saw, whose summit is like the throne of the Lord, is the throne where the Holy and Great One, the Lord of glory, the eternal King, will sit when he comes down to visit the earth for good. And this beautiful and fragrant tree, and no creature of flesh has authority to touch it until the great judgment, when he will take vengeance on all, and bring everything to an end forever. This will be given to the righteous and the humble. From its fruit life will be given to the elect. Towards the north it will be planted in a holy place by the house of the Lord, the eternal King. Then they will rejoice with joy and be glad in the holy place. They will each draw the fragrance of it into their bones, and they will live a long life on earth, as your fathers lived. And in their days sorrow, pain, labor, and punishment will not touch them. Then I blessed the Lord of glory, the eternal King, because he has prepared such things for righteous men, and has created such things, and said that they are to be given to them. And from there I went to the middle of the earth, and saw a blessed, well-watered place, which had branches, which remained alive, and sprouted from a tree, which had been cut down. There I saw a holy mountain, and under the mountain, to the east of it, there was water, and it flowed toward the south. And towards the east I saw another mountain, which was of the same height, and between them there was a deep and narrow valley, and in it a stream ran by the mountain. To the west of this one was another mountain, which was lower than it was, and not high, and under it there was a valley between them. And there were other deep and dry valleys at the end of the 3 mountains. And all the valleys were deep and narrow, of hard rock, and trees were planted on them. And I was amazed at the rock, and I was amazed at the valley. I was very much amazed. Then I said, What is the purpose of this blessed land, which is completely full of trees, and of this accursed valley in the middle of them? Then Raphael, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered me and said to me, This accursed valley is for those who are cursed forever. Here all will be gathered together who speak with their mouths against the Lord, words that are not fitting, and say hard things about his glory. Here they will gather them together, and here will be their place of judgment. And in the last days there will be the spectacle of the righteous judgment upon them, in front of the righteous forever. For here the merciful will bless the Lord of glory, the eternal King. In the days of the judgment on them they will bless him because of his mercy, according as he has assigned to them their lot. Then I myself blessed the Lord of glory. I addressed him, and I remembered his majesty, as was fitting. And from there I went towards the east, among the desert mountains, and I saw a vast plain, and it was solitary, but it was full of trees and plants from this seed, and water gushed out over it from above. The torrent, which flowed towards the northwest, seemed abundant, and from all sides there went up spray and mist. Then I went to another place, away from the wilderness. I came near to the east of this mountain. There I saw trees of judgment, especially vessels of the fragrance of incense and myrrh, and the trees were not alike. And above it, above these, above the mountains of the east, and not far away, I saw another place, valleys of water, like that which does not fail. And I saw a beautiful tree. Its fragrance was like that of the mastic. And by the banks of these valleys I saw fragrant cinnamon. And beyond those valleys I came towards the east. Then I saw another mountain, on which there were trees, and there flowed out water, and there flowed out from it, as it were, a nectar whose name is Styrax in Galbanum. Beyond this mountain I saw another mountain, and on it there were aloe trees, and those trees were full of fruit, which is like an almond, and is hard. And when they take this fruit, it is better than any fragrance. And after these fragrances, to the northeast, as I looked over the mountains, I saw 7 mountains full of fine nard, and fragrant trees of cinnamon and pepper. And from there I went over the summits of those mountains, far away to the east, and I went over the Red Sea, and I was far from it, and I went over the darkness from it. I came to paradise, the garden of righteousness, and I saw beyond those trees many large trees growing there, sweet-smelling, large, very beautiful and glorious, the trees of wisdom, from which they eat and know great wisdom. It is like the carob tree, and its fruit is like clusters of grapes on a vine, very beautiful, and the smell of this tree spreads and penetrates far. And I said, "This tree is beautiful. How beautiful and pleasing is its appearance!" Then the holy angel Raphael, who was with me, answered me and said, "This is the tree of wisdom, from which your old father and aged mother, who were before you, ate and learned wisdom, and their eyes were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they were driven from the garden. And from there I went to the ends of the earth, and I saw large animals there, each different from the other, and also birds, which differ in form, beauty, and call, each different from the other. And to the east of these animals I saw the ends of the earth, on which heaven rests, and the open gates of heaven. I saw how the stars of heaven come out, and counted the gates out of which they come, and wrote down all of their outlets, for each one individually according to their number, and their names according to their constellations, their positions, their times, and their months, as the angel Uriel, who was with me, showed me. He showed me everything, and wrote it down, and also their names he wrote down for me, according to the correspondence to their set times. From there I went towards the north, to the ends of the earth, and I saw there a great and glorious wonder at the ends of the whole earth. There I saw 3 gates of heaven. Through each of them north winds go out. When they blow there is cold, hail, frost, snow, fog, and rain. And from one gate it blows for good. But when they blow through the other 2 gates, it is with force, and it brings torment over the earth, and they blow with force. From there I went towards the west, to the ends of the earth. And I saw there, as I saw in the east, 3 open gates, as many gates and just as many outlets. From there I went towards the south, to the ends of the earth. And there I saw 3 gates of heaven open, and the south wind, the mist, and the rain, and wind come out from there. And from there I went towards the east, to the ends of heaven. And there I saw the 3 eastern gates of heaven open, and above them there were smaller gates. Through each of these smaller gates the stars of heaven pass, and go towards the west, on the path that has been shown to them. And when I saw, I blessed, and I will always bless the Lord of glory, who has made great and glorious wonders, so that he may show the greatness of his work to his angels, and to the souls of men, so that they might praise his work, and so that all his creatures might see the work of his power, and praise the great work of his hands, and bless him forever. 10. The Book of Methuselah. After those days my son Methuselah chose a wife for his son Lamech, and she became pregnant by him and gave birth to a son. And his body was white like snow, and red like the flower of a rose, and the hair of his head was white like wool. His eyes were beautiful, and when he opened his eyes he made the whole house bright, like the sun, so that the whole house was exceptionally bright. And when he was taken from the hand of the midwife, he opened his mouth and spoke to the Lord of righteousness. But his father Lamech was afraid of him, and fled, and went to his father Methuselah. He said to him, "I have fathered a strange son. He is not like a man, but he is like the children of the angels of heaven, of a different type, and not like us. And his eyes are like the rays of the sun, and his face glorious. And it seems to me that he is not sprung from me, but from the angels, and I am afraid that something extraordinary may be done on the earth in his days. Now, my father, I am asking you and petitioning you to go to our father Enoch, and learn the truth from him, for he dwells with the angels." When Methuselah heard the words of his son, he came to me, at the ends of the earth, for he had heard I was there. And he cried out, and I heard his voice, and went to him. And I said to him, "I am here, my son, for you have come to me." And he answered me and said, "I have come to you because of a great matter, and because of a disturbing vision have I come here. Now hear me, my father, for a son has been born to my son Lamech, whose form and type are not like the type of a man. His color is whiter than snow, and redder than the flower of a rose, and the hair of his head is whiter than white wool. His eyes are like the rays of the sun, and he opened his eyes, and made the whole house bright. When he was taken from the hand of the midwife, he opened his mouth, and blessed the Lord of heaven. His father Lamech was afraid, and fled to me. And he does not believe he has sprung from him, but thinks him to be from the angels of heaven. And I have come to you, so that you may make known to me the truth. Then I, Enoch, answered and said to him, The Lord will do new things on earth, and this I have already seen in a vision, and made known to you. For in the generation of my father Jared, some from the height of heaven transgressed the word of the Lord. They committed sin and transgressed the law, and were promiscuous with women, committing sin with them, and have married some of them, and have fathered children by them. Therefore there will be great destruction over the whole earth, and there will be a great flood, and there will be great destruction for 1 year. But this child, who has been born to you, will be left on the earth, and his 3 sons will be saved with him. When all the men who are on the earth die, he and his sons will be spared. They have fathered giants on the earth, not of spirits, but of flesh, and there is great wrath on earth. But the earth will be cleansed of all corruption. Now make known to your son Lamech that the one who has been born is truly his son. Call his name Noah, for he will be a remnant for you, and he and his sons will be saved from the destruction which is coming on the earth, because of all the sin and all the iniquity which will be committed on the earth in his days. But after this there will be yet greater iniquity than that which was committed on the earth before. For I know the mysteries of the holy ones. For the Lord showed them to me, and made them known to me, and I read them in the tablets of heaven. And I saw written on them that generation upon generation will do wrong, until a generation of righteousness arises, and wrongdoing will be destroyed, and sin will depart from the earth, and everything good will come upon it. Now, my son, go, make known to your son Lamech that this child that has been born is truly his son, and this is no lie. When Methuselah heard the words of his father Enoch, who showed him these secrets, he returned, having seen him, and called the name of that child Noah, for he will comfort the earth after all the destruction. 11. The Book of Noah. In the days before the great flood, Noah saw the earth had tilted, and that its destruction was near. And he set off from there, and went to the ends of the earth, and cried out to his great-grandfather Enoch. And Noah said 3 times in a bitter voice, Hear me, hear me, hear me. And he said to him, Tell me, what is it that is being done on the earth, that the earth is so afflicted and shaken? For I fear I will be destroyed with it. And immediately there was a great disturbance on the earth, and a voice was heard from heaven, and I fell upon my face. Then my great-grandfather Enoch came, stood by me, and said to me, Why did you cry out to me with such bitter crying and weeping? A command has gone out from the Lord against those who dwell upon the dry ground, that this must be their end. For they have learned all the secrets of the angels, and all the wrongdoings of Satan, and all of their secret powers, and all the powers of those who practice magic arts, the powers of enchantments, and the powers of those who cast molten images for all the earth. And further, how silver is produced from the dust of the earth, and how soft metal occurs in the earth. For lead and tin are not produced from the earth, like the former. There is a spring which produces them, and an angel who stands in it, and that angel distributes them. After this, my great-grandfather Enoch took hold of me with his hand, and raised me, and said to me, Go, for I have asked the Lord of hosts about this disturbance on the earth. And he said to me, Because of their iniquity, their judgment has been completed, and they will no longer be counted before me. Because of their sorceries, they have searched out and learned. The earth and those who dwell upon it will be destroyed. As for these, there will be no place of refuge forever, for they showed to them what is secret, and they have been condemned. But this is not so for you, my son. The Lord of hosts knows that you are pure and innocent of this reproach concerning the secrets, and he has established your name among the holy, and will keep you from among those who dwell upon the dry ground. And he has destined your offspring in righteousness, to be kings, and for great honors. And from your offspring will flow out a spring of righteous and holy without number forever. And after this he showed me the angels of punishment, who were ready to come and release all the forces of the water, which is under the earth, in order to bring judgment and destruction on all those who reside and dwell upon the dry ground. And the Lord of hosts commanded the angels who were coming out, not to raise their hands, but to keep watch, for those angels were in charge of the forces of the water. And I came out from before Enoch. In those days the word of the Lord came to me, and he said to me, Noah, your lot has come up before me, a lot without discipline, a lot of love and uprightness. And now the angels are making a wooden structure. And when the angels come out from that task, I will place my hand on it and keep it safe. And a change will take place so that the dry ground may not remain empty. And I will establish your offspring before me forever and ever, and I will scatter those who dwell with you over the face of the dry ground. I will not again put them to the test on the face of the earth, but they will be blessed and increase on the dry ground in the name of the Lord. Those angels who showed iniquity will be locked up in that burning valley, which my great-grandfather Enoch had showed to me previously, in the west, near the mountains of gold and silver and iron and soft metal and tin. I saw that valley, in which there was a great disturbance and a heaving of the waters. And when all this happened, from the fiery molten metal and the disturbance which disturbed the waters in that place, a smell of sulfur was produced. And this smell came from those waters, and that valley of the angels, who led me astray, burns under the ground. And through the valleys of that same area flow out rivers of fire, where those angels will be punished, who led astray those on the dry ground. In those days those waters will serve the kings, and the mighty, and the exalted, and those who dwell upon the dry ground, for the healing of soul and body, but also for the punishment of the spirit. Their spirits are so full of lust that they will be punished in their bodies, for they denied the Lord of hosts, and they see their punishment every day, yet they do not believe in his name. The more their bodies are burned, the more a change will come over their spirits, forever and ever. For no one can speak an idle word in front of the Lord of hosts, for judgment will come upon them, for they believe in the lust of their bodies, but deny the Spirit of the Lord. And those same waters will undergo a change in those days. For when those angels are punished in those days, the temperature of those springs of water will change. And when the angels come up, that water of the springs will change and become cold. Then I heard the holy Michael answering and saying, This judgment, with which the angels are judged, is a testimony for the kings and the mighty who possess the dry ground. For these waters of judgment serve for the healing of the bodies of the kings, and for the lust of their bodies. But they do not see and do not believe that these waters will change, and will become a fire which burns forever. And after this, my great-grandfather Enoch gave me the explanation of all the secrets in a scroll, and the speeches that had been given to him, and he put them together for me in the words of the book of speeches. 12. The book of speeches. The second vision that he saw, the vision of wisdom, which Enoch the son of Jared, the son of Mahalaleel, the son of Canaan, the son of Enosh, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, saw. This is the beginning of the words of wisdom, which I raised my voice to speak, and say, To those who dwell on the dry ground, listen, you men of old, and see, and also those who come afterward, to the words of the Holy One, which I will speak in front of the Lord of hosts. It would have been better to have said these things before, but from those who come after, we will not withhold the beginning of wisdom. Until now there has not been given by the Lord of hosts such wisdom as I have received. In accordance with my insight, in accordance with the wish of the Lord of hosts, by whom the lot of eternal life has been given to me. And the three speeches were passed to me, and I raised my voice, and said to those who dwell on the dry ground. The first speech. When the community of the righteous appears, and the sinners are judged for their sins and are driven from the face of the ground. When the righteous one appears in front of the elect righteous, whose works are weighed by the Lord of hosts, and when light appears to the righteous and elect who dwell on the dry ground, where will be the dwelling of the sinners? Where will be the resting place of those who denied the Lord of hosts? It would have been better for them if they had not been born. When the secrets of the righteous are revealed, the sinners will be judged, and the ungodly will be driven from the presence of the righteous and the elect. From then on, those who possess the earth will not be mighty and exalted, nor will they be able to look at the face of the holy ones. For the light of the Lord of hosts will have appeared on the face of the holy, the righteous, and the elect. The mighty kings will be destroyed at that time and given into the hands of the righteous and the holy. And from then on, no one will be able to seek the Lord of hosts, for their life will be at an end. And it will come to pass in these days that the elect and holy children will come down from the high heavens, and their offspring will become one with the sons of men. In those days Enoch received scrolls of indignation and anger, and scrolls of tumult and confusion. And there will be no mercy for them, says the Lord of hosts. At that time clouds and a storm wind carried me off from the face of the earth, and set me down at the end of heaven. And there I saw another vision, the dwelling of the righteous and the resting places of the holy. There my eyes saw their dwelling with the angels, and their resting places with the holy ones. And they were petitioning and begging and praying on behalf of the sons of men, and righteousness, like water, flowed in front of them, and mercy, like dew on the ground. These will remain among them like this forever. In those days my eyes saw the place of the elect ones of righteousness and faith, and there will be righteousness in their days. And the righteous and elect will be without number, in front of him forever and ever. And I saw their dwelling under the wings of the Lord of hosts, and all the righteous and elect shone in front of him, like the light of fire. Their mouths were full of blessing, and their lips praised the name of the Lord of hosts. And righteousness will not fail in front of him, and truth will not fail in front of him. There I wished to dwell, and my soul longed for that dwelling. There had my lot been assigned before, for this was decided about me in front of the Lord of hosts. In those days I praised and exalted the name of the Lord of hosts, with blessing and praise, for he has destined me for blessing and praise, in accordance with the Lord of hosts. For a long time my eyes looked at that place, and I blessed him and praised him, saying, Blessed is he, and may he be blessed from the beginning and forever. In his presence there is no end. He knew before the world was created what the world would become, even for all the generations that are to come. Those who do not sleep bless you, and they stand before your glory, and bless and praise and exalt, saying, Holy, 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 Lord of hosts, he fills the earth with spirits. And there my eyes saw all those who do not sleep, standing in front of him, and blessing, and saying, Blessed are you, and blessed is the name of the Lord, forever and ever. And my face was transformed until I was unable to see. And after this I saw 1,000 thousands, and 10,000 times 10,000, a multitude beyond number or reckoning, who stood in front of the glory of the Lord of hosts. I looked, and on the four sides of the Lord of hosts I saw 4 figures, different from those who were standing, and I learned their names, because the angel who went with me made their names known, and showed me all the secret things. And I heard the voices of those 4 figures as they sang praises in front of the Lord of glory. The first voice blesses the Lord of hosts forever and ever. And the second voice I heard blessing the Messiah and the elect who depend on the Lord of hosts. And the third voice I heard petitioned and begged on behalf of those who dwell on the dry ground, and prayed in the name of the Lord of hosts. And the fourth voice I heard driving away Satan, and not allowing him to come in front of the Lord of hosts, to accuse those who dwell on the high ground. And after this I asked the angel of peace, who went with me, and showed me everything which is secret, Who are those 4 figures whom I have seen, and whose words I have heard and written down? And he said to me, This first one is the holy Michael, the merciful and tolerant. And the second, who is in charge of all the diseases, and in charge of all the wounds of the sons of men, is Raphael. And the third, who is in charge of all the powers, is the holy Gabriel, and the fourth, who is in charge of repentance and hope of those who will inherit eternal life, is Penuel. And these are the 4 angels of the Lord Most High, and the 4 voices that I heard in those days. And after this I saw all the secrets of heaven, and how the kingdom is divided, and how the deeds of men are weighed in the balance. There I saw the dwelling of the elect, and the resting places of the holy. And my eyes saw there all the sinners who deny the name of the Lord of hosts, being driven away from there. They dragged them off, and they were not able to remain, because of the punishment that went out from the Lord of hosts. And there my eyes saw the secrets of the flashes of lightning, and of the thunder, and the secrets of the winds, how they are distributed in order to blow over the earth, and the secrets of the clouds, and of the dew. And there I saw the place from where they go out, and how, from there, the dust of the earth is saturated. And there I saw closed storehouses from which the winds are distributed, in the storehouse of the hail, in the storehouse of the mist, in the storehouse of the clouds, and its cloud remained over the earth from the beginning of the world. And I saw the chamber of the sun and the moon, where they go out and where they return, and their glorious return, and how one is more honored than the other is, and their magnificent course, and how they do not leave their course, neither adding nor subtracting from their course, and how they keep faith in one another, observing their oath. And the sun goes out first, and completes its journey at the command of the Lord of hosts, and his name endures forever and ever. And after this is the hidden and visible path of the moon, and it travels the course of its journey in that place by day and by night. One stands opposite the other, in front of the Lord of hosts, and they give thanks, and sing praise, and never rest, because their thanksgiving is like rest to them. For the shining sun makes many revolutions, for a blessing and for a curse, and the path of the journey of the moon is for the righteous light, but for the sinners darkness. In the name of the Lord, who has created a division between the light and darkness, and has divided the spirits of men, and has established the spirits of the righteous in his name of his righteousness. For no angel hinders, and no power is able to hinder, because the judge sees them all, and judges them all himself. Wisdom found no place where she could dwell, and her dwelling was in heaven. Wisdom went out in order to dwell among the sons of men, but did not find a dwelling. So Wisdom returned to her place and took her seat among the angels. Then iniquity came out from her chambers. Those whom she did not seek she found, and dwelt among them, like the rain in the desert, and like dew on the parched ground. And again I saw flashes of lightning in the stars of heaven, and I saw how he called them all by their names, and they obeyed him. I saw the balance of righteousness, how they are weighed according to their light, according to the width of their areas, and the day of their appearing, and how their revolutions produce lightning, and I saw their revolutions according to the number of the angels, and how they keep faith with one another. And I asked the angel, who went with me and showed me what is secret, "What are these?" He replied to me, "Their likeness the Lord of hosts has shown to you. These are the names of the righteous, who dwell on the dry ground and believe in the name of the Lord of hosts forever and ever." And other things I saw concerning lightning, how some of the stars rise and become lightning, but cannot lose their form. And this is the second speech, about those who deny the name and the dwelling of the holy ones and of the Lord of hosts. They will not ascend into heaven, nor will they come upon the earth. Such will be the lot of the sinners who deny the name of the Lord of hosts, who will be kept for the day of affliction and tribulation. On that day the Messiah will sit on the throne of glory, and will choose from among their works. And their resting places will be without number, and their spirits within them will grow strong when they see my Messiah, and those who appeal to my holy and glorious name. On that day I will cause my Messiah to dwell among them, and I will transform heaven and make it an eternal blessing and light. I will transform the dry ground and make it a blessing, and I will cause my elect ones to dwell upon it. But those who commit sin and evil will not walk upon it. For I have seen and have satisfied my righteous ones with peace, and have placed them in front of me. But for the sinners my judgment draws near, so that I may destroy them from the face of the earth. And there I saw he who is the Ancient of Days, and his head was white like wool. And with him there was another whose face had the appearance of a man, and his face was full of grace, like one of the holy angels. And I asked one of the holy angels, who went with me, and showed me all the secrets about that Son of Man, who he was, and from where he was, and why he went with the Ancient of Days. And he answered me, and said to me, This is the Son of Man, who has righteousness, and with whom righteousness dwells. He will reveal all the treasures of that which is secret, for the Lord of hosts has chosen him, and through uprightness his lot has surpassed all others in front of the Lord of hosts forever. And this Son of Man, whom you have seen, will rouse the kings and the powerful from their resting places, and the strong from their thrones, and will loose the reins of the strong, and will break the teeth of the sinners. He will cast down the kings from their thrones and from their kingdoms, for they do not exalt him, and do not praise him, and do not humbly acknowledge from where their kingdom was given to them. He will cast down the faces of the strong, and shame will fill them, and darkness will be their dwelling, and worms will be their resting place. They will have no hope of rising from their resting places, for they do not exalt the name of the Lord of hosts. And these are they who judge the stars of heaven, and raise their hands against the Most High, and trample upon the dry ground, and dwell upon it. And all their deeds show iniquity, and their power rests on their riches, and their faith is in their gods that they have made with their hands, and deny the name of the Lord of hosts. But they will be driven from the houses of his congregation, and of the faithful, who depend on the name of the Lord of hosts. In those days the prayer of the righteous and the blood of the righteous will have ascended from the earth in front of the Lord of hosts. In these days the holy ones who live in heaven above will unite with one voice, and pray, and praise, and give thanks, and bless, and call out in the name of the Lord of hosts, because of the blood of the righteous that has been poured out, because of the prayer of the righteous, so that it may not cease in front of the Lord of hosts, so that justice might be done to them, and that their patience may not have to last forever. In those days I saw the Ancient of Days sit down on the throne of his glory, and the books of the living were opened in front of him. And all his hosts, which dwell in the heaven above, and his council were standing in front of him. And the hearts of the holy ones were so full of joy that the number of righteousness had been reached, and the prayer of the righteous had been heard, and the blood of the righteous had not been required in front of the Lord of hosts. In that place I saw an inexhaustible spring of righteousness, and many springs of wisdom surrounded it. And all the thirsty drank from them, and were filled with wisdom. And their dwelling was with the righteous, and the holy, and the elect. And at that hour that Son of Man was called into the presence of the Lord of hosts, and his name brought to the Ancient of Days. Even before the sun and the constellations were created, before the stars of heaven were made, his name was called in front of the Lord of hosts. He will be a staff to the righteous and the holy, so that they may lean on him and not fall. And he will be the light of the Gentiles, and he will be the hope of those who grieve in their hearts. All those who dwell upon the dry ground will fall down and worship in front of him, and they will bless him, and praise, and celebrate with psalms the name of the Lord of hosts. Because of this he was chosen, and hidden in front of him, before the world was created, and forever. But the wisdom of the Lord of hosts has revealed him to the holy and the righteous, for he has kept the lot of the righteous safe. For they have hated and rejected this world of iniquity. All its works and its ways they have hated in the name of the Lord of hosts. For in his name they are saved, and he is the one who will require their lives. In those days the kings of the earth and the strong who possess the dry ground will have downcast faces because of the works of their hands. For on the day of their torment and trouble they will not save themselves. I will give them into the hands of my elect ones, like straw in the fire, and like lead in water, so that they will burn in front of the righteous and sink in front of the holy, and no trace will be found of them. On the day of their trouble there will be rest upon the earth, and they will fall down in front of him and will not rise. There will be no one who will take them with his hands and raise them, for they denied the Lord of hosts and his Messiah. May the name of the Lord of hosts be blessed. For wisdom has poured out like water, and glory will not fail in front of him forever and ever. For he is powerful in all the secrets of righteousness, and iniquity will pass away like a shadow, and will have no existence. For the Messiah stands in front of the Lord of hosts, and his glory is forever and ever, and his power for all generations. In him dwell the spirit of wisdom, and the spirit that gives understanding, and the spirit of knowledge and of power, and the spirit of those who sleep in righteousness. He will judge the things that are secret, and no one will be able to say an idle word in front of him, for he has been chosen in front of the Lord of hosts in accordance with his wish. In those days a change will occur for the holy and the elect. The light of days will rest upon them, and the glory and honor will return to the holy. On the day of trouble, calamity will be heaped up over the sinners, but the righteous will conquer in the name of the Lord of hosts, and he will show this to others, so that they might repent and abandon the works of their hands. They will have no honor in front of the Lord of hosts, but in his name they will be saved, and the Lord of hosts will have mercy on them, for his mercy is great. He is righteous in his judgment, and in front of his glory iniquity will not be able to stand against his judgment. For he who does not repent will be destroyed, and from then on I will not have mercy on them, says the Lord of hosts. In those days the earth will return that which has been entrusted to it, and Sheol will return that which has been entrusted to it, and that which it has received, and destruction will return what it owes. He will choose the righteous and the holy from among them, for the day has come near when they must be saved. In those days the Messiah will sit on his throne, and all the secrets of wisdom will flow out from the counsel of his mouth, for the Lord of hosts has appointed him and glorified him. In those days the mountains will leap like rams, and the hills will skip like lambs satisfied with milk, and all will become like angels in heaven. Their faces will shine with joy, for in those days the Messiah will have risen, and the earth will rejoice, and the righteous will dwell upon it, and the elect will walk upon it. And after those days, in that place where I had seen all the visions of that which is secret, for I had been carried off by a whirlwind, and they had brought me to the west, there my eyes saw the secrets of heaven, everything that will occur on earth, a mountain of iron, and a mountain of copper, and a mountain of silver, and a mountain of gold, and a mountain of soft metal, and a mountain of lead. Then I asked the angel who was with me, saying, What are these things which I have seen in secret? And he said to me, All these things which you have seen serve the authority of his Messiah, so that he may be strong and powerful on the earth. And that angel of peace answered me, saying, Wait a little, and you will see, and everything which is secret, which the Lord of hosts has established, will be revealed to you. These mountains that you have seen, the mountain of iron, and the mountain of copper, the mountain of silver, and the mountain of gold, the mountain of soft metal, and the mountain of lead, all these in front of the Messiah will be like wax before a flame. And like the waters that come down from above onto these mountains, they will be weak under his feet. It will come to pass in those days that neither by gold nor by silver will men save themselves. They will be unable to save themselves or to flee. And there will be neither iron for war nor material for a breastplate. Bronze will be no use, and tin will be of no use and will count for nothing, and lead will not be wanted. All these will be wiped out and destroyed from the face of the earth when the Messiah appears in front of the Lord of hosts. And there my eyes saw a deep valley, and its mouth was open, and all those who dwell upon the dry ground, and the sea, and the islands will bring gifts and presents and offerings to him. But that deep valley will not become full, and their hands commit evil, and everything of which the righteous create the sinners evilly devour. And so the sinners will be destroyed from in front of the Lord of hosts, and will be banished from the face of his earth, unceasingly for ever and ever. For I saw the angels of punishment going and preparing all the instruments of Satan. Then I asked the angel of peace, who went with me, and I asked him, For whom are they preparing these instruments? And he answered me, They are preparing these for the kings and for the powerful of this earth, so that by means of them they may be destroyed. And after this, the righteous and the Messiah will cause the house of his congregation to appear, and from then on the name of the Lord of hosts, they will not be hindered. And in front of him these mountains will not be firm like the earth, and the hills will be like a spring of water, and the righteous will have rest from the ill treatment of the sinners. I looked and turned to another part of the earth, and I saw there a deep valley with burning fire. Then they brought the kings and the powerful, and threw them into that valley. And there my eyes saw how they made instruments for them, iron chains of immeasurable weight. And I asked the angel of peace, who went with me, saying, These chain instruments, for whom are they being prepared? And he answered me, These are being prepared for the hosts of Azazel, so that they may take them and throw them into the lowest parts of hell. And they will cover their jaws with rough stones, as the Lord of hosts commands. And Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Penuel, these will take hold of them on that great day. They will throw them, on that great day, into the furnace of burning fire, so that the Lord of hosts may take vengeance on them for their iniquity, because they became servants of Satan, and led astray those who dwell upon the dry ground. In those days the punishment of the Lord of hosts will go out, and all the storehouses of the water which are above the sky and under the earth will be opened. All the water will be joined with the water that are above the sky. The water that is above the sky is male, and the water that is under the earth is female. And all those who dwell upon the dry ground, and those who dwell under the ends of heaven, will be wiped out. And because of this they will acknowledge their iniquity which they have committed on the earth, and through this they will be destroyed. After this the Ancient of Days repented, and said, I have destroyed to no purpose all those who dwell upon the dry ground. And he swore by his great name, From now on I will not act like this towards all those who dwell upon the dry ground. And I will put a sign in heaven, and it will be a pledge of faith between me and them forever, so long as heaven is above the earth. And this will be in agreement with my command. When I want to take hold of them with the hands of the angels, on the day of tribulation and pain, in the face of my anger and my wrath and anger will remain upon them, says the Lord of hosts. Your powerful kings who dwell upon the dry ground will be obliged to watch my Messiah sit down on the throne of my glory, and pledge in the name of the Lord of hosts, Azazel and his associates, and all his hosts. And I saw the hosts of the angels of punishment there, as they went, and they were holding chains of iron and bronze. I asked the angel of peace, who went with me, saying, To whom are those angels who are holding the chains going? And he said to me, Each to his own chosen ones, and to their beloved ones, so that they may be thrown into the chasm, into the depths of the valley. And then that valley will be filled with their chosen and the beloved ones. And the days of their life will be at an end, and the days of their leading astray will no longer be counted. In those days the angels will gather together, and will throw themselves towards the east, upon the Parthians and Medes. They will stir up the kings, so that a disturbing spirit will come upon them, and they will drive them from their thrones, and they will come out like lions from their lairs, and like hungry wolves in the middle of their flocks. And they will go up and trample on the land of my elect ones, and the land of my elect ones will become a trampling ground before them, and a beaten track. But the city of my righteous ones will be a hindrance to their horses, and they will stir up slaughter among themselves, and their own right hand will be strong against them. And a man will not admit to knowing his neighbor, or his brother, nor his son, nor a son his father, or his mother, until through their death there are many corpses, and their punishment will not be in vain. In those days Sheol will open its mouth, and they will sink into it in their destruction. Sheol will swallow up the sinners in front of the faces of the elect. And it came to pass, after this, that I saw another host of chariots with men riding on them. And they came upon the wind from the east and from the west to the south. And the sound of the noise of their chariots was heard. And when this occurred, the holy ones observed it from heaven, and the pillars of the earth were shaken from their foundations. And the sound was heard from the ends of the earth to the ends of heaven throughout one day. And all will fall down and worship the Lord of hosts. This is the end of the second speech. And then I began to speak the third speech, about the righteous and about the elect. Blessed are you, the righteous and the elect, for your lot will be glorious. The righteous will be in the light of the sun, and the elect in the light of eternal life. And there will be no end of days of their life, and the days that are holy will be without number. They will seek the light, and will find righteousness with the Lord of hosts. Peace be to the righteous with the Lord of the world. And after this it will be said to the holy that they seek in heaven the secrets of righteousness, the lot of faith, where it has become bright as the sun upon the dry ground. and darkness has passed away. There will be ceaseless light, and to a limit of days they will not come. For darkness will be destroyed beforehand, and the light will endure in front of the Lord of hosts. And the light of uprightness will endure in front of the Lord of hosts forever. In the 50th year, in the 7th month, on the 14th day of the month, in the life of Enoch. In that vision I saw how the heaven of heavens was shaken violently, and the host of the Most High and the angels, 1,000 thousands and 10,000 times 10,000, were extremely disturbed. Then I saw the Ancient of Days sitting on the throne of his glory, and the angels and righteous were sitting around him. And a great trembling seized me, and fear took hold of me. And my loins collapsed and gave way, and my whole being melted, and I fell upon my face. And the holy Michael sent another holy angel, one of the holy angels, and he raised me. And when he raised me, my spirit returned, for I had been unable to endure the sight of that host, and the disturbance, and the shaking of heaven. And the holy Michael said to me, "What sight has disturbed you like this? Until today has the day of his mercy lasted, and he has been merciful and tolerant towards those who dwell on the dry ground. When the day and the power and the punishment and the judgment comes that the Lord of hosts has prepared for those who worship the righteous judgment, and for those who deny the righteous judgment, and for those who take his name in vain, and that day has been prepared, for the elect a covenant, but for the sinners a test. On that day 2 monsters will be separated from one another, a female monster, whose name is Leviathan, to dwell in the depths of the sea, above the springs of the water, and the name of the male is Behemoth, who occupies with his breast an immense desert named Dendane, on the east of the garden, where the elect and the righteous dwell, where my great-grandfather was received, who was 7th from Adam, the first man whom the Lord of hosts made." Then I asked the other angel to show me the power of those monsters, how they were separated on one day, and thrown, one into the depths of the sea, and the other onto the dry ground of the desert. And he said to me, "Son of man, you here wish to know what is secret?" And the angel of peace who was with me said to me, "These 2 monsters, prepared in accordance with the greatness of the Lord, will feed them that punishment of the Lord. And children will be killed with their mothers, and sons with their fathers. When the punishment of the Lord of hosts rests upon them, it will remain resting, so that the punishment of the Lord of hosts may not come in vain upon these. Afterwards the judgment will be according to his mercy and his patience." In those days I saw long cords given to those angels, and they acquired wings for themselves, and flew, and went towards the north. And I asked the angel, saying, "Why did these take the cords and go?" And he said to me, "They went so that they may measure." And the angel who went with me said to me, "These will bring the measurements of the righteous, and the ropes of the righteous to the righteous, that they may rely on the name of the Lord of hosts forever and ever. The elect will begin to dwell with the elect, and these measurements will be given to faith, and will strengthen righteousness. These measurements will reveal all the secrets of the depths of the earth. And those who were destroyed by the desert, and those who were devoured by the fish of the sea, and by the animals, that they may return and rely on the day of the Messiah. For no one will be destroyed in front of the Lord of hosts, and no one can be destroyed. All those in the heavens above receive a command, and power, and one voice, and one light like fire was given to them. And him, before everything, they blessed, and exalted, and praised in wisdom. And they showed themselves wise in speech, and in the spirit of life. And the Lord of hosts set the Messiah on the throne of his glory, and he will judge all the works of the holy ones in heaven above. And in the balance he will weigh their deeds. When he lifts his face to judge their secret ways according to the word of the name of the Lord of hosts, and their path according to the way of the righteous judgment of the Lord Most High, they will all speak with one voice, and bless, and praise, and exalt, and glorify the name of the Lord of hosts. And he will call all the hosts of heaven, and all the holy ones above, and the hosts of the Lord, the cherubim, and the seraphim, and the Ophanim, and all the angels of power, and all the angels of principalities, and the Messiah, and the other host that is upon the dry ground, and over the water on that day. They will raise one voice, and will bless, and praise, and glorify, and exalt in the name of faith, and in the spirit of wisdom, and of patience, and in the spirit of mercy, and in the spirit of justice, and of peace, and in the spirit of goodness. They will all say with one voice, Blessed is he, and blessed be the name of the Lord of hosts forever and ever. All those who do not sleep in heaven above will bless him. All his holy ones who are in heaven will bless him, and all the elect ones who dwell in the garden of life, and every spirit able to bless, and praise, and exalt, and sanctify your holy name. And all flesh, which to the limit of its power, will praise, and bless your name forever and ever. For great is the mercy of the Lord of hosts, and he is tolerant, and all his works, and all his forces, as many as he has made, he has revealed to the elect and the righteous, in the name of the Lord of hosts. Then the Lord commanded the kings, and the mighty, and the exalted, and those who dwell upon the earth, and said, Open your eyes, and raise your horns if you are able to accept the Messiah. And the Lord of hosts sat on his throne of glory, and the Spirit of righteousness was poured out on him, and the word of his mouth kills all the sinners and all the lawless, and they are destroyed in front of him. On that day all the kings and the mighty and the exalted and those who possess the earth will stand up, and they will see and recognize how he sits on the throne of his glory. And the righteous are judged in righteousness in front of him, and no idle word is spoken in front of him. Pain will come upon them as upon a woman in labor, for whom giving birth is difficult when her child enters the mouth of the womb, and she has difficulty giving birth. And one half of them will look at the other, and they will be terrified, and will cast down their faces, and pain will take hold of them when they see that Son of a woman sitting on the throne of his glory. The mighty kings and all those who possess the earth will praise, bless, and exalt him who rules everything that is hidden. For from the beginning that Son of Man was hidden, and the Most High kept him in the presence of his power, and revealed him only to the elect. And the community of the holy and elect will be sown, and all the elect will stand before him on that day. And all the mighty kings and the exalted and those who rule the dry ground will fall down before him on their faces and worship. And they will set their hopes on that Son of Man, and will pray to him, and will ask for mercy from him. But the Lord of hosts will then so press them that they will hurry to go out from before him, and their faces will be filled with shame, and the darkness will grow deeper on their faces. And the angels of punishment will take them, so that they may repay them for the wrong that they did to his children and to his elect ones. And they will become a spectacle to the righteous and to his elect ones. They will rejoice over him, for the anger of the Lord of hosts will rest upon them, and the sword of the Lord of hosts will be drunk with them. The righteous and the elect will be saved on that day, and they will never see the faces of the sinners and the lawless from then on. And the Lord of hosts will remain over them, and with that Son of Man they will dwell, and eat, and lie down, and rise up forever and ever. The righteous and the elect will have risen from the earth, and will have ceased to cast down their faces, and will put on the garment of life. And this will be a garment of life from the Lord of hosts. And your garments will not wear out, and your glory will not fail in front of the Lord of hosts. In those days the mighty kings who possess the dry ground will beg the angels of his punishment, to whom they have been handed over, so that they might give them a little rest, and so that they might fall down and worship in front of the Lord of hosts, and confess their sins in front of him. And they will bless and praise the Lord of hosts, and say, Blessed be the Lord of hosts, and the Lord of kings, the Lord of the mighty, and the Lord of the rich, and the Lord of the glory, and the Lord of wisdom. And everything secret is clear in front of you, and your power is for all generations, and your glory is forever and ever. Deep and without number are all your secrets, and your righteousness is beyond reckoning. Now we realize that we should praise and bless the Lord of kings, and the one who is king over all kings. And they will say, Who will give us rest, so that we might praise and thank and bless him, and make our confession in front of his glory? Now we long for a rest, but we don't find it. We are driven off and don't obtain it. And the light has passed away from before us, and darkness will be our dwelling forever and ever. For we have not made our confession before him, and we have not praised the name of the Lord of kings, and we have not praised the Lord for all his works. But our hopes have been on the scepter of our kingdom, and of our glory. And on the day of our affliction and tribulation he does not save us, And we find no rest to make our confession that our Lord is faithful in all his doings, and in all his judgments and his justice, and that his judgments show no respect for people. And we pass away from in front of him because of all our works, and all our sins have been counted exactly. And they will say to them, Our souls are satisfied with possessions gained through iniquity, but they don't prevent our going down into the flames of the torment of Sheol. And after this, their faces will be filled with darkness and shame in front of that Son of Man, and they will be driven away from him, and the sword will dwell among them, and in front of him. And the Lord of hosts says, This is the law of the judgment for the mighty, and the kings, and the exalted, and for those who possess the dry ground in front of the Lord of hosts. And I saw other figures hidden in that place. I heard the voice of the angel saying, These are the angels who came down from heaven onto the earth, and revealed what is secret to the sons of men, and led astray the sons of men, so that they committed sin. And on that day the holy Michael answered Raphael, saying, The power of the Spirit seizes me, and makes me tremble, because of the harshness of the judgment of the angels. Who can endure the harshness of the judgment which has been executed, and before which they melt with fear? Then the holy Michael answered Raphael again, and said to him, Who is he whose heart is not softened over this, and whose mind would not be disturbed by this word? Judgment has gone out against them, upon those whom they have led out like this. But it came to pass, when he stood before the Lord of hosts, that the holy Michael spoke as follows to Raphael, I will not take their part under the eye of the Lord, for the Lord of hosts is angry with them, because they acted as if they were gods. Because of this, the hidden judgment will come upon them forever and ever. For neither any other angel, nor any man will receive their lot, but they alone have received their judgment forever and ever. And after this judgment I will terrify them, and make them tremble, for they have shown this to those who dwell upon the dry ground. And these are the names of those angels. The first of them is Semjaza, and the second Artaquipha, and the third Armen, and the fourth Kokabel, and the fifth Turiel, and the sixth Ramiel, and the seventh Daniel, and the eighth Nukael, and the ninth Barakel, and the 10th Azazel, and the 11th Armoros, and the 12th Batriel, and the 13th Basasel, and the 14th Ananel, and the 15th Turiel, the 16th Samsiel, the 17th Yetarel, the 18th Tumiel, the 19th Turiel, the 20th Rumiel, and the 21st Ezaziel. These are the chiefs of their angels, and the names of the leaders of the hundreds, and their leaders of fifties, and their leaders of tens. The name of the first is Jacon. This is the rebel who led astray all the children of the holy angels, and he brought them down onto the dry ground, and led them astray through the daughters of men. And the name of the second is Asbiel. This one suggested an evil plan to the children of the holy angels, and led them astray, so that they corrupted their bodies with the daughters of men. The name of the third is Gadriel. This is the one who showed all the deadly blows to the sons of men, and he led astray Eve. And he showed the weapons of death to the sons of men, the shield and the breastplate, and the sword for slaughter, and all the weapons of death to the sons of men. And from his hand they have gone out against those who dwell the dry ground from that time and forever and ever. And the name of the fourth is Penemu. This one showed the sons of men the bitter and the sweet, and showed them all the secrets of their wisdom. He taught men the art of writing with ink and paper, and through this many have gone astray, from eternity to eternity, and to this day. For men were not created for this, that they should confirm their faith with pen and ink. For men were created no differently from the angels, so that they might remain righteous and pure, and death, which destroys everything, would not have touched them. But through this knowledge of theirs they are being destroyed, and through this power death consumes them. And the name of the fifth is Castillae. This one showed the sons of men all the evil blows of the spirits, and of the demons, and the blows that attack the embryo in the womb so that it miscarries, and the blows that attack the soul, the bite of the serpent, and the blows that occur at midday, and the son of the serpent, who is strong. And this is the task of Casbiel, the chief of the oath, who showed the oath to the holy ones when he dwelt on high in glory, and his name is Becca. And this one told the holy Michael that he should show him the secret name, so that they might mention it in the oath, so that those who showed the sons of men everything that is secret trembled before that name and oath. And this is the power of this oath, for it is powerful and strong, and he placed this oath, Eke, in the charge of the holy Michael. These are the secrets of this oath, and they are strong through this oath. And heaven was suspended before the world was created, and forever. And through it the earth was founded upon the water. And from the hidden recesses of the mountains come beautiful waters, from the creation of the world and forever. Through that oath the sea was created, and as its foundation, for the time of anger, he placed for it the sand, and it does not go beyond it, from the creation of the world and forever. Through that oath the deeps were made firm, and they stand and don't move from their place, from the creation of the world and forever. And through that oath the sun and the moon complete their course, and do not transgress their command, from the creation of the world and forever. And through that oath the stars complete their course, and he calls their names, and they answer him, from the creation of the world and forever. And likewise the spirits of the water, of the winds, and of the breezes, and their paths, according to all the groups of the spirits. And there are kept in the storehouses of the sound of thunder, and of the light of the lightning, and there are kept in the storehouses of the hail, and the frost, and the storehouses of the mist, and the storehouses of the rain and dew. And all these make their confession, and give thanks in front of the Lord of hosts, and sing praises with all their power. And their food consists of all their thanksgiving, and they give thanks, praise, and exalt in the name of the Lord of hosts forever and ever. And this oath is strong over them, and through it they are kept safe, and their courses are not disturbed. And they had great joy, and they blessed, praised, and exalted, because the name of that Son of Man had been revealed to them. And he sat on the throne of his glory, and the whole judgment was given to that Son of Man, and he will cause the sinners to pass away, and be destroyed from the face of the earth. And those who led astray the world will be bound in chains, and will be shut up in the assembly place of their destruction, and all their works will pass away from the face of the earth. And from then on there will be nothing corruptible, for that Son of Man has appeared, and has sat on the throne of his glory, and everything evil will pass away, and go from in front of him. And the word of that Son of Man will be strong in front of the Lord of hosts. This is the third speech of Enoch. 13. The storehouses. It came to pass, after this, that while he was living, his name was lifted from those who dwell upon the dry ground to the presence of that Son of Man, and to the presence of the Lord of hosts. And he was lifted on the chariots of the Spirit, and his name vanished from among them. And from that day I was not counted among them, and he placed me between two winds, between the north and the west, where the angels took the cords to measure for me the place for the elect and the righteous. And there I saw the first fathers and the righteous, who from the beginning of the world dwelt in that place. And it came to pass after this, that my spirit was carried off, and it went up into the heavens. I saw the sons of the holy angels treading upon flames of fire. Their garments were white, and their clothing, and the light of their face was like snow. And I saw 2 rivers of fire, and the light of that fire shone like a hyacinth. And I fell upon my face in front of the Lord of hosts. Then the angel Michael, one of the archangels, took hold of me by my right hand, and raised me and led me out to all the secrets of mercy, and the secrets of righteousness. He showed me all the secrets of the ends of heaven, and all the storehouses of the stars, from where they come out from below the holy ones. And the Spirit carried Enoch off to the highest heaven, and I saw there, in the middle of that light, something built of crystal stones, and in the middle of those stones rivers of living fire. My spirit saw a circle of fire, which surrounded that house, and from its 4 sides came rivers full of living fire, and they surrounded that house. And all around were the seraphim, and the cherubim, and the Ophanim. These are they who do not sleep, but keep watch over the throne of his glory. I saw angels, who could not be counted, 1,000 thousands and 10,000 times 10,000 surrounding that house. And Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Penuel, and all the holy angels who are in the heavens above, went in and out of that house. Then Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Penuel, and many holy angels without number, came out from that house, and with them the Ancient of Days, his head white and pure, like wool, and his garments indescribable. And I fell upon my face, and my whole body melted, and my spirit was transformed, and I cried out in a loud voice in the spirit of power, and I blessed, praised, and exalted. And these blessings, which came out from my mouth, were pleasing before the Ancient of Days. And the Ancient of Days came with Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Penuel, and thousands and tens of thousands of angels without number. And that angel came to me, and greeted me with his voice, and said to me, You are the Son of Man, who was born to righteousness, and righteousness remains over you, and the righteousness of the Ancient of Days will never leave you. And he said to me, He proclaims peace to you in the name of the world which is to come. For from there peace has come out from the creation of the world, and so you will have it forever and ever and ever. All will walk according to your way, and in like manner righteousness will never leave you. With you will be their dwelling, and with you their lot, and they will not be separated from you forever and ever and ever. And so there will be length of days with that Son of Man, and the righteous will have peace, and the righteous will have an upright way in the name of the Lord of hosts, forever and ever. And in those days my eyes saw the secrets of the flashes of lightning, and the lights, and the regulations governing them. And they flashed for a blessing or for a curse, as the Lord of hosts wishes. And there I saw the secret of the thunder, and how when it crashes in heaven above, the sound of it is heard. And they showed me the dwellings of the dry ground, and the sound of the thunder for peace, and for blessing, or for a curse, according to the word of the Lord of hosts. And after this all the secrets of the lightnings and of the flashes of lightning were shown to me. They flashed to bring blessing and satisfaction. And the other angel spoke to me, the one who went with me, and showed me what is secret, what is first and last in heaven, in the heights and under the dry ground, in the depths and at the ends of heaven, and at the foundations of heaven, and in the storehouses of the winds, and how the spirits are distributed, and how they are weighed, and how the springs and the winds are counted according to the power of their spirit, and the power of the light of the moon, and the divisions of the stars according to their names, and how all the divisions are made, and the thunder according to the places where it falls, and all the divisions that are made in lightning, so that it may flash, and its hosts, how they quickly obey. For the thunder has fixed intervals, which has been given to its sound for waiting. And the thunder and the lightning are not separate, although not the same. Through a spirit the two of them move inseparably. For when the lightning flashes, the thunder utters its voice, and the spirit, at the proper time, causes it to rest, and divides equally between them, because the storehouses of the times for their occurrence is like that of the sand, and each of them, at the proper time, is held by a rein, and turned back by the power of the Spirit, and likewise driven forward, according to the number of the regions of the earth. The spirit of the sea is male and strong, and according to the power of its strength the Spirit turns it back with a rein, and likewise it is driven forward, and scattered among all the mountains of the earth. The spirit of the frost is its own angel, and the spirit of the hail is a good angel. The spirit of the snow has withdrawn because of its power, and it has a special power, and that which rises from it is like smoke, and its name is frost. The spirit of the mist is not associated with them in their storehouse, but has a special storehouse, for its course is glorious both in light and in darkness, and in winter and in summer, and its storehouse is an angel. The spirit of the dew has its dwelling at the ends of heaven, and is connected with the storehouses of the rain. Its course is in winter and in summer, and its clouds. And the clouds of the mist are associated, and one gives to the other. When the spirit of the rain moves from its storehouse, the angels come and open the storehouse and bring it out. When it is scattered over all the dry ground, it joins with all the water that is on the ground. And whenever it joins with the water that is on the ground, it replenishes the sea and the lakes. For the waters are for those who dwell upon the dry ground, for they are nourishment for the dry ground from the Most High who is in heaven. Therefore there is a fixed measure for the rain, and the angels comprehend it. All these things I saw towards the garden of righteousness. 14. The Revolutions of the Lights. The book of the revolutions of the lights of heaven, each as it is, according to their classes, according to their period of rule and their times. according to their names and places of origin, and according to their months. This Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, and is their leader, showed to me. And he showed me all their regulations, exactly as they are, for each year of the world and forever, until the new creation is made, which will last forever. This is the first law of the lights. The light called the sun, its rising is in the gates of heaven, which are towards the east, and its setting is in the western gates of heaven. And I saw 6 gates from which the sun rises, and 6 gates in which the sun sets, and the moon also rises and sets in those gates, and the leaders of the stars together with those whom they lead. There are 6 in the east and 6 in the west, all exactly in place, one next to the other, and there are many windows to the south and the north of those gates. And first there rises the greater light, named the sun, and its shape is like the circle of heaven, and its entirety is full of fire which gives light and warmth. The wind blows the chariots on which it ascends, and the sun goes down in the sky and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is led so that it comes to the appropriate gate and shines in the sky. In this way it rises in the first month in the large gate, namely, it rises through the 4th of those 6 gates that are towards the east. And in that 4th gate, through which the sun rises in the first month, there are 12 window openings, from which, whenever they are opened, flames go out. When the sun rises in heaven, it goes out through that 4th gate for 30 days, and exactly in the 4th gate, in the west of heaven, it goes down. In those days the sun grows daily longer, and the night grows nightly shorter, until the 30th morning. On that day the sun becomes longer than the night by a double part, and the day amounts to exactly 10 parts, and the night amounts to 8 parts. And the sun rises from that 4th gate, and sets in the 4th gate, and returns to the 5th gate in the east for 30 mornings, and it rises from it, and sets in the 5th gate. And then the day becomes longer by 2 parts, and the day amounts to 11 parts, and the night becomes shorter, amounting to 7 parts. Then the sun returns to the east, and comes to the 6th gate, and rises and sets in the 6th gate for 31 mornings, because of its sign. On that day the sun becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day amounts to 12 parts, and the night becomes shorter and amounts to 6 parts. And the sun rises up so that the day may grow shorter, and the night longer. And the sun returns to the east, and comes to the 6th gate, and rises from it, and sets for 30 mornings. When 30 mornings have been completed, the day becomes shorter by exactly 1 part, and the day amounts to 11 parts, and the night to 7 parts. And the sun goes out from the west through that 6th gate, and goes out to the east, and rises in the 5th gate for 30 mornings, and it sets in the west again, in the 5th gate in the west. On that day the day becomes shorter by 2 parts, and the day amounts to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. Then the sun rises from that 5th gate, and sets in the 5th gate in the west, and rises in the 4th gate for 31 mornings because of its sign, and sets in the west. On that day the day becomes equal with the night, and is of equal length, and the night amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts. Then the sun rises from that gate, and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the 3rd gate for 30 mornings, and sets in the west in the 3rd gate. Then the sun rises from that 3rd gate, and sets in the 3rd gate in the west, and rises to the east. And the sun rises in the 2nd gate in the east for 30 mornings, and likewise it sets in the 2nd gate in the west of heaven. And on that day the night amounts to 11 parts, and the day to 7 parts. Then the sun rises on that day from the 2nd gate, and sets in the west in the 2nd gate, and returns to the east to the 1st gate for 31 mornings, then sets in the west in the 1st gate. On that day the night becomes longer, and becomes double the day, and the night amounts to exactly 12 parts, and the day to 6 parts. And with this the sun has completed the divisions of its journey, and it turns back again along these divisions of its journey, and it comes through that 1st gate for 30 mornings, and sets in the west opposite it. On that day the night becomes shorter in length by 1 part, and amounts to 11 parts, and the day to 7 parts. Then the sun returns, and comes to the 2nd gate in the east, and it returns along those divisions of its journey for 30 mornings, rising and setting. And on that day the night becomes shorter in length, and the night amounts to 10 parts, and the day to 8 parts. And on that day the sun rises from the second gate, and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the third gate for 31 mornings, and sets in the west of heaven. And on that day the night becomes shorter, and amounts to 9 parts, and the day amounts to 9 parts, and the night becomes equal with the day, and the year amounts to exactly 364 days. And the length of the day and the night, and the shortness of the day and the night are different because of the journey of the sun. Because of this, its journey becomes daily longer and nightly shorter. And this is the law of the journey of the sun and its return. As often as it returns 60 times and returns and rises. That is the great eternal light, which forever and ever is named the sun. And this that rises is the great light, which is named after its appearance, as the Lord commanded. It rises and sets like this. It neither decreases nor rests, but runs day and night in its chariot. And its light is 7 times brighter than that of the moon, but in size the two appear equal. And after this law I saw another law, for the lesser light, named the moon. Its shape is like the orb of the sun, and the wind blows its chariot on which it rides. And in fixed measure light is given to it. Every month its rising and setting change, and its days are as the days of the sun. And when its light is uniformly full, it is a 7th part the light of the sun. And it rises like this, and its first phase is towards the east. It rises on the 13th morning. On that day it appears and becomes the first phase of the moon for you on the 30th morning, together with the sun and the gate through which the sun rises. 1/2 covers with the 7th part, and its entire circle is empty without light, except for a 7th part, a 14th part of its light. On the day it receives a 7th part and a half of its light amounts to a 7th, and a 7th part and a half. It sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with it, and receives a half of 1 part of light. On that night, at the beginning of the moon's day, the moon sets with the sun, and is dark on that night in 6 and 7 parts and a half. And it rises on that day with exactly a 7th part. It goes out with exactly a 7th part. It goes out, receding from the rising of the sun, and becomes bright on the remainder of its days, and in the 6th and 7th parts. And another journey and law I saw for it, and that according to this law it makes its monthly journey. And Uriel, the holy angel who is leader of them all, showed me everything, and I wrote down their positions as he showed them to me. I wrote down their months as they are, and the appearance of their light, until 15 days have been completed. In 7 parts it makes all its darkness full, and in 7 parts it makes all its light full, in the east and in the west. But in certain months it changes its setting, and in certain months it follows its own individual course. In 2 months it sets with the sun, in those 2 gates that are in the middle, in the 3rd and in the 4th gate. It goes out for 7 days and turns back, and returns again to the gate from which the sun rises. And in that gate it makes all its light full, and it recedes from the sun, and comes in 8 days to the 6th gate from which the sun rises. And when the sun rises from the 4th gate, the moon goes out for 7 days, until it rises from the 5th gate. Then again it returns in 7 days to the 4th gate, makes all its light full, recedes, and comes to the 1st gate in 8 days. And again it returns in 7 days to the 4th gate from which the sun rises. I saw their positions like this, how the moon rose and the sun set in those days. And if 5 years are added together, the sun has an excess of 30 days. For each year of the 5 years there are 364 days. And the excess of the sun and the stars comes to 60 days. In 5 years, with 6 days each, they have an excess of 30 days. And the days of the moon fall behind the sun and the stars by 30 days. And the moon conducts the years exactly, all of them according to their eternal positions. They are neither early nor late, even by 1 day, but change the year in exactly 364 days. In 3 years there are 1,092 days, and in 5 years 1,820 days, so that in 8 years there are 2,912 days. For the moon alone, the days in 3 years come to 1,062 days, and in 5 years it is 50 days behind. And there are 1,770 days in 5 years, so that for the moon the days amount to 2,832 days in 8 years. For the difference in 8 years is 80 days, and all the days the moon is behind in 8 years are 80 days. And the year is completed exactly in accordance with their positions, and the positions of the sun, in that they rise from the gate from which the sun rises and sets for 30 days. And the leaders of the tens of thousands, who are in charge of the whole creation, and in charge of all the stars, and also the 4 days which are added, and are not separated from their position, according to the whole reckoning of the year. And these serve on the 4 days that are not counted in the reckoning of the year. And because of them men go wrong in them, for these lights really serve in the stations of the world, one in the first gate, and one in the third gate, and one in the fourth gate, and one in the sixth gate. And the exact harmony of the world is completed in the separate 364 stations of the world. For the signs and the times and the years and the days were shown to me by the angel Uriel, whom the Lord of eternal glory has placed in charge of all the lights in heaven and in the world, so that they might rule on the face of the heaven and appear over the earth, and be leaders of the day and night, the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the serving creatures who revolve in the chariots of heaven. Likewise Uriel showed me 12 gate openings in the circle of the chariot of the sun, in the sky, from which the rays of the sun come out, and from them heat comes out over the earth when they are opened at the times that are appointed for them. There are also openings for the winds, and for the spirit of the dew, when they are opened at their times to stand open at the end of heaven. I saw 12 gates in heaven, at the ends of this land, from which the sun, and the moon, and the stars, and all the works of heaven go out in the east and in the west. And there are many window openings to the north and to the south, and each window at its appointed time sends out heat corresponding to those gates, from which the stars go out in accordance with his command to them, and in which they set according to their number. And I saw chariots in heaven running through the region above those gates, in which the stars that never set rotate. But one is bigger than all the others. It goes around through this whole place. At the ends of the earth I saw 12 gates open to all the winds, from which the winds come out and blow over the earth. 3 of them open in front of heaven, and 3 in the back, and 3 on the right of heaven, and 3 on the left. The 3 first are those towards the east, and then the 3 towards the north, and the 3 after these towards the south, and the 3 in the west. Through 4 of them come winds of blessing and peace, and from the other 8 come winds of punishment. When they are sent, they bring devastation to the whole earth, and to the water which is on it, and to all those that dwell upon it, and to everything that is in the water and on the dry ground. And the first wind from those gates, called the east wind, comes out through the first gate, which is toward the east. The one that comes from the south brings devastation, drought, heat, and destruction. Through the second gate, in the middle, comes what is right, and from it comes rain, fruitfulness, prosperity, and dew. Through the third gate, which is towards the north, comes cold and drought. After these the winds toward the south come out, through 3 gates. First, through the first of the gates, which inclines towards the east, comes a hot wind. Through the middle gate, which is next to it, come pleasant fragrances, and dew, rain, prosperity, and life. Through the third gate, which is towards the west, come dew, rain, locusts, and devastation. After these the winds towards the north. From the 7th gate, which is toward the east, come dew and rain, locusts, and devastation. And through the gate exactly in the middle come rain and dew, life and prosperity. Through the third gate, which is towards the west, come mist, frost, snow, rain, dew, and locusts. After these are the winds towards the west. Through the first gate, which inclines towards the north, come dew, rain, ice, cold, snow, and frost. And from the middle gate come dew, rain, prosperity, and blessing. Through the last gate, which is towards the south, come drought and devastation, burning and destruction. And in this manner the 12 gates of the 4 quarters of heaven are complete. And all their laws, and all their punishments, and all their benefits I have shown to you, my son Methuselah. They called their first quarter eastern, because it is the first, and they called the second the south, because there the Most High descends, and especially the one who is blessed forever descends there. And the western quarter is called waning, because there all the lights of heaven wane and go down. And the fourth quarter, named the north, is divided into 3 parts. And the first of them is the dwelling place for men, and the second contains seas of water, and the deeps, and the forests, and the rivers, and darkness and mist. And the third part contains the garden of righteousness. I saw 7 high mountains, which were higher than all the mountains on the earth, and from them snow comes. Days and times and years pass away and go by. I saw 7 rivers on the earth, larger than all the other rivers. One of them comes from the east and pours out its waters into the great sea. 2 of them come from the north to the sea and pour out their waters into the Red Sea in the east. And the remaining 4 flow out on the side of the north to their seas, 2 to the Red Sea, and 2 into the great sea, and they discharge themselves there, and not into the wilderness, as some say. I saw 7 large islands, in the sea and on the land, 2 on the land and 5 in the great sea. The names of the sun are as follows: the first Or-Keres, and the second Shemesh. The moon has 4 names. The first is Ishon, and the second Lebanah, and the third Lebanah-Kishah, and the fourth Yarek. These are the 2 great lights. Their shape is like the circle of heaven, and in size the 2 appear equal. In the orb of the sun are 7 parts of light, which are added to it more than to the sun, and in fixed measure light is transferred to the moon until a 7th part of the sun is exhausted. And they go into the gates of the west, go around through the north, and rise through the gates of the east on the face of heaven. And when the moon rises, it appears in the sky, and has a half of a 7th part of light. And on the 14th day it makes all its light full. 15 parts of light are transferred to it, until on the 15th day its light is full, according to the sign of the year, and amounts to 15 parts. And the moon comes into being by halves of a 7th part. And in its waning on the first day it decreases to 14 parts of its light, and on the second to 13 parts, and on the third to 12 parts, and on the fourth to 11 parts, and on the 5th to 10 parts, and on the 6th to 9 parts, and on the 7th to 8 parts, and on the 8th to 7 parts, and on the 9th to 6 parts, and on the 10th to 5 parts, and on the 11th to 4 parts, and on the 12th to 3, and on the 13th to 2, and on the 14th to half of a 7th part. And all the light that remains from the total disappears on the 15th day. And in certain months the moon has 29 days, and once 28. Then Uriel showed me another law. When light is transferred to the moon, and on which side it is transferred from the sun, all the time that the moon is increasing in its light, it transfers as it becomes opposite the sun, until in 14 days its light is full in the sky. And when it is all ablaze, its light is full in the sky. And on the first day it is called the new moon, for on that daylight rises on it. Its light becomes full exactly on the day that as the sun goes down in the west it rises from the east for the night. And the moon shines for the whole night until the sun rises opposite it. And the moon is seen opposite the sun, and on the side on which the light of the moon appears, there again it wanes until all its light disappears. And the days of the moon end, and its circle remains empty without light. And for 3 months at its proper time it achieves 30 days, and for 3 months it achieves 29 days, during which it completes its waning. In the first period, in the first gate, 127 days. And in the time of its rising, for 3 months it appears in each month with 30 days, but for 3 months it appears in each month with 29 days. For night, for 20 days each time it looks like a man, and by day like heaven, for there is nothing else in it except its light. And now, my son Methuselah, I have shown you everything, and the whole law of the stars of heaven is complete. He showed me the whole law for these, for every day, and for every time, and for every rule, and for every year, and for its end, according to its command, for every month and every week. And the waning of the moon, which occurs in the 6th gate, for in that 6th gate its light becomes full, and after that it is the beginning of the month. And the waning, which occurs in the 1st gate, at its proper time, until 127 days are complete, were by weeks, 25 weeks and 2 days. And how it falls behind the sun, according to the law of the stars, by exactly 5 days in one period of time, when it has completed the pathway you have seen. Such is the appearance and the likeness of every light, which Uriel, the great angel who is their leader, showed to me. And in those days Uriel answered me and said to me, Listen, I have shown you everything, O Enoch, and I have revealed everything to you, so that you may see this sun, this moon, and those who lead the stars of heaven, and all those who turn them, their tasks and their times and their rising. But in the days of the sinners the years will become shorter, and their seed will be late on the land and on their fields. And all things on the earth will change and will not appear at their proper time. And the rainwater will be withheld, and heaven will retain it. In those times the fruit of the earth will be late, and will not grow at their proper time. And the fruit of the trees will be withheld at their proper time. And the moon will change its customary practice, and will not appear at its proper time. But in those days it will appear in heaven, come on top of a large chariot in the west, and shine with more than normal brightness. And many heads of the stars in command will go astray. These will change their courses, and their activities will not appear at the times that have been prescribed for them. And the entire law of the stars will be closed to the sinners, and the thoughts of those who dwell upon the earth will go astray over them. And they will turn from their ways and go astray, and will think they are gods. And many evils will overtake them, and punishment will come upon them to destroy them all. And he said to me, O Enoch, look at the scroll of the tablets of heaven, and read what is written upon them, and note every individual fact. And I looked at everything that was written, and I noted everything. I read the scroll and everything that was written in it, all the deeds of men, and all the children of flesh who will be upon the earth, for all the generations of eternity. Then I immediately blessed the Lord, the eternal King of glory, because he has made all the works of the world. And I praised the Lord because of his patience, and I blessed him on account of the sons of Adam. And at that time I said, Blessed is the man who dies righteous and good, concerning whom no scroll of iniquity has been written, and against whom no guilt has been found. 15. Enoch's letter to Methuselah. Then these three holy ones brought me and set me on the earth in front of the door of my house, and said to me, Tell everything to your son Methuselah, and show all your children that no flesh is righteous before the Lord, for he created them. For 1 year we will leave you with your children, until you have regained your strength, so that you may teach your children and write these things down for them, and bear witness to all your children. But in the 2nd year we will take you from among them. Let your heart be strong, for the good will proclaim righteousness to the good. The righteous will rejoice with the righteous, and they will wish each other well. But the sinner will die with the sinners, and the apostate will sink with the apostate. And those who practice righteousness will die because of the deeds of men, and will be gathered in because of the deeds of the ungodly. In those days they finished speaking to me, and I went to my family as I blessed the Lord of ages. And now, my son Methuselah, all these things I recount to you, and write down for you. I have revealed everything to you, and have given you scrolls about these things. Keep, my son Methuselah, the scrolls from the hand of your father, so that you may pass them on to the generations of eternity. I have given wisdom to you and to your children, and to those who will be your children, that they may give it to their children for all the generations, forever, this wisdom that is beyond their thoughts. And those who understand it will not sleep, but will incline their ears, that they may learn this wisdom, and it will be better for those who eat from it than any good food. 16. The Law of the Stars. Blessed are all the righteous. Blessed are all those who walk in the way of righteousness, and don't sin like the sinners. In the numbering of all their days in which the sun journeys in heaven, coming in and out through the gates of heaven for 30 days, with the leaders of the thousands of this order of stars, and with the 4 which are added, and divided between the 4 seasons of the year, which lead them and appear with them on 4 days. Because of them men go wrong, and don't reckon them in the reckoning of the whole year. For men go wrong in respect of them, and don't know them exactly. For they belong in the reckoning of the year, and are truly recorded forever, 1 in the 1st gate, and 1 in the 3rd, and 1 in the 4th, and 1 in the 6th. And the year is completed in 364 days. And this account of it is true, and the recorded reckoning of it is exact. For the lights, and the months, and the feasts, and the years, and the days, Uriel showed me, and inspired me, he to whom the Lord of the whole created world gave commands about the host of heaven for me. He has the power in heaven over night and day to cause light to shine on men, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and all the powers of heaven, which rotate in their orbits. And this is the law of the stars, which set in their places, at their times, and at their feasts, and in their months. And these are the names of those men who led me, who keep watch, so that they appear at their times, and in their orders, and in their months, and in their periods of rule, and in their positions. There are 4 leaders who divide the 4 parts of the year appear first, and after them the 12 leaders of the orders who divide the months and the years into 364 days, with the heads over thousands who separate the days. And for the 4 days that are added to them, there are leaders who separate the 4 parts of the year. And as for these heads over thousands, one is added between the leader and those who are led, but their leaders make the separation. And these are the names of the leaders who separate the 4 appointed parts of the year: Melchiel, Helamelech, Melial, and Narel. And the names of those whom they lead: Adnarel, Iesusael, Ilumiel. These 3 follow behind the leaders of the orders, and all others follow behind the 3 leaders of the orders, who follow behind those leaders of positions, who separate the 4 parts of the year. In the beginning of the year, Melchiel rises first and rules, who is called the southern sun, and all the days of his period during which he rules are 91. And these are the signs of the days that are to be seen on the earth, in the days of his period of rule: sweat, heat, and calm. And all the trees bear fruit, and the leaves appear on all the trees, and the wheat harvest, and rose flowers. All the flowers bloom in the field, but the trees of winter are withered. And these are the names of the leaders who are under them: Berkiel, Zelebsael, and another one who is added, a head over 1,000, named Haloyaseph. And the days of the period of rule of this one are complete. The second leader after him is Helamelech, whom they call the shining sun, and all the days of his light are 91. And these are the signs of the days on the earth: heat and drought. And these trees bring their fruit to ripeness and maturity, and make their fruit dry. And the sheep mate and become pregnant, and men gather all the fruits of the earth, and everything that is in the fields, and the vats of wine. And these things occur in the days of his period of rule. And these are the names, and the orders, and the leaders of these heads over thousands: Gedael, Keel, and Heel. And the name of the head over 1,000, who is added to them, is Asphael. And the days of his period of rule are complete. 17. Enoch's first vision. Now, my son Methuselah, I will show you all the visions that I saw, recounting them in front of you. 2 visions I saw before I took a wife, and neither one was like the other. For the first time, when I learned the art of writing, and for the second time, before I took your mother. I saw a terrible vision, and I prayed to the Lord concerning it. I laid down in the house of my grandfather, Mahalaleel, when I saw in a vision how heaven was thrown down and removed, and it fell upon the earth. When it fell upon the earth, I saw how the earth was swallowed up in a great abyss, and mountains were suspended on mountains, and hills sank down upon hills, and tall trees were torn up by their roots and were thrown down, sinking into the abyss. Then speech fell into my mouth, and I raised my voice to cry out, and said, "The earth is destroyed!" And my grandfather Mahalaleel roused me, since I lay near him, and said to me, "Why did you cry out like this, my son? And why do you moan so?" And I recounted the whole vision to him, which I had seen. And he said to me, "A terrible thing you have seen, my son. Your dream vision concerns the secrets of all sin of the earth. It is about to sink into the abyss and be utterly destroyed. Now, my son, rise and make a request to the Lord of glory, for you are faithful, that a remnant may be left on the earth, and that he may not wipe out the whole earth. My son, from heaven all this will come upon the earth, and upon the earth there will be great destruction." And then I rose and prayed, and made a request, and wrote my request down for the generations of eternity. And I will show everything to you, my son Methuselah. And when I went out below and saw the sky, and the sun rising in the east, and the moon setting in the west, and some stars, and the whole earth, and everything as he knew it since the beginning, then I blessed the Lord of judgment, and ascribed majesty to him. For he makes the sun come out from the windows of the east, so that it ascends and rises on the face of heaven, and follows the path which has been shown to it. And I raised my hands in righteousness, and I blessed the Holy and Great One. And I spoke with the breath of my mouth, and with a tongue of flesh, which God has made for men born of flesh, so that they might speak with it. And he has given them breath, and a tongue, and a mouth, so that they might speak with them. Blessed are you, O Lord King, and great and powerful in your majesty, Lord of the whole creation of heaven, King of kings, and God of the whole world. And your kingly authority, and your sovereignty, and your majesty will last forever, and ever, and your power for all generations. And all the heaven are your throne forever, and the whole earth is your footstool forever, and ever. For you made, and you rule everything, and nothing is too hard for you, and no wisdom escapes you. It does not turn away from your throne or from your presence. You know and see and hear everything, and nothing is hidden from you, for you see everything. And now the angels of your heaven are doing wrong, and your anger rests upon the flesh of men until the day of the great judgment. And now, O God, Lord and great King, I beg and ask that you will fulfill my prayer to leave me a posterity on earth, and not to wipe out the flesh of men and make the earth empty, so that there is destruction forever. And now, my Lord, wipe out from the earth the flesh that has provoked your anger, but the flesh of righteousness and uprightness establish as a seed-bearing plant forever. And do not hide your face from the prayer of your servant, O Lord. 18. Prophecy of the Animals. And after that I saw another dream, and I will show it all to you, my son. Then Enoch raised his voice and said to his son Methuselah, To you I speak, my son. Hear my words, and incline your ear to the dream vision of your father. Before I took your mother, Edna, I saw a vision on my bed, and a bull, Adam, came out of the earth, and that bull was white. And after it a heifer, Eve, came out, and with the heifer came 2 bullocks. One of them was black, Cain, and the other red, Abel. And that black bullock, Cain, struck the red one, Abel, and pursued it over the earth. And from then on I could not see that red bullock, Abel. But that black bullock, Cain, grew, and a heifer, his wife, went with it. And I saw that many bulls, Cain's descendants, came out from it, which were like it, and followed behind it. And that cow, Eve, that first one, came from the presence of that first bull, Adam, seeing that red bullock, Abel, but did not find it. And then it moaned bitterly, and continued to seek it. And I looked until that first bull, Adam, came to it, and calmed it, and from that time it did not cry out. And after this she gave birth to another white bull, Seth. And after this she gave birth to many black bulls and cows, many other children. And I saw in my sleep that white bull, Seth, how it likewise grew and became a large white bull. And from it came many white bulls, and they were like it. And they began to father many white bulls, descendants, that were like them, one following another. And again I looked with my eyes as I was sleeping, and I saw heaven above, and a star, Azazel, fell from heaven, and it arose and ate and pastured among those bulls. And after this I saw the large and the black bulls, and all of them changed their pens, and their pastures, and their heifers, and they began to moan one after another. And again I saw in the vision, and looked up at heaven, and I saw many stars, the watchers, how they came down, and were thrown down from heaven to that first star, and fell among those heifers and bulls, men and women. And they were pasturing among them. And I looked at them and saw, and all of them let out their private parts like horses, and began to mount the cows, women, of the bulls. And they all became pregnant, and gave birth to elephants, camels, and asses, great giants, Nephilim, and Eliud. And all the bulls were afraid of them, and were terrified in front of them. And they began to bite with their teeth, and to devour, and to gore with their horns. And so they began to devour those bulls, and all the sons of the earth began to tremble and shake before them, and to flee. And again I saw them, how they began to gore one another, and to devour one another, and the earth began to cry out. And I raised my eyes again to heaven, and saw in the vision, and there came from heaven beings that were like white men, angels, and 4 came from that place, the archangels, and 3 others with them. And those 3 who came out last took hold of me by my hand, and raised me from the generations of the earth, and lifted me up unto a high place, and showed me a tower high above the earth, and all the hills were lower. And one said to me, Remain here until you have seen everything which is coming upon these elephants, camels, and asses, great giants, Nephilim, and Eliud, and upon the stars, the watchers, and upon all the bulls, the men. And I saw one of those four, Raphael, who had come out first, how he took hold of that first star, Azazel, which had fallen from heaven, and bound it by its hands and feet, and threw it into an abyss. And that abyss was narrow, and deep, and horrible, and dark. And one of them drew his sword, and gave it to those elephants, camels, and asses, great giants, Nephilim, and Eliud, and they began to strike one another, and the whole earth shook because of them. And as I looked in the vision, one of those four who had come out cast a line from heaven, and gathered and took all the large stars, those whose private parts were like the private parts of horses, and bound them all by their hands and their feet, and threw them into a chasm of the earth. And one of those four went to a white bull, Noah, and taught him a mystery, trembling as he was. He was born a bull, but became a man, and built for himself a large vessel, the ark, and dwelt on it. And 3 bulls, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, went with him in that vessel, and they were covered over. And again I raised my eyes to heaven, and saw a high roof with 7 water channels on it, the upper waters. And those channels discharged much water into an enclosure, the earth. And I looked again, and springs, fountains of the deep, opened on the floor of that large enclosure, the earth, and water began to bubble up, and to rise over the floor. And I looked at that enclosure, the earth, until its whole floor was covered by water. And water, darkness, and mist increased on it. And I looked at the height of that water, and that water had risen above that enclosure, and was pouring out over the enclosure, and it remained on the earth. And all the bulls of that enclosure, the wicked generation, were gathered together, until I saw how they sank and were swallowed up and destroyed in that water. And that vessel, the ark, floated on the water. But all the bulls, elephants, camels, and asses, men, great giants, Nephilim, and Eliud, sank to the bottom, together with all the animals, so that I could not see them. And they were unable to get out, but were destroyed, and sank into the depths. And again I looked at that vision until those water channels, the upper waters, were removed from that high roof, and the chasms of the earth were made level, and other abysses, canyons, were opened. And the water began to run down into them, until the earth became visible, and that vessel, the ark, settled on the earth, and the darkness departed, and light appeared. And that white bull, Noah, who became a man, went out from the vessel, the ark, and the 3 bulls, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, with him. And one of the 3 bulls was white, like that bull, and one of them was red as blood, and one was black, the races. And that white bull, Noah, passed away from them. And they began to father wild animals and birds, so that there arose from them every kind of species, lions, tigers, wolves, dogs, hyenas, wild boars, foxes, badgers, pigs, falcons, vultures, kites, eagles, and ravens, every nation of mankind. But among them was born a white bull, Abraham. And they began to bite one another, fight among themselves. But that white bull, Abraham, which was born among them, fathered a white ass, Ishmael, and a white bull, Isaac, with it. And the wild asses, the Ishmaelites, increased. But that bull, Isaac, which was born from it, fathered a black wild boar, Esau, and a white sheep, Jacob. And that wild boar, Esau, fathered many boars, and that sheep, Jacob, fathered 12 sheep, the 12 patriarchs. And when those 12 sheep had grown, they handed one of their number, Joseph, over to the asses, Midianites. And those in turn handed that sheep, Joseph, over to the wolves, the Egyptians. And that sheep, Joseph, grew up among the wolves, the Egyptians. And the Lord brought the 11 sheep, the remaining patriarchs, to dwell with it, and to pasture with it among the wolves, the Egyptians. And they increased and became many flocks of sheep, many descendants. And the wolves, the Egyptians, began to make them afraid, and they oppressed them until they made away with their young, and then they threw their young into a river with much water. But those sheep, the Hebrews, began to cry out because of their young, and to complain to their Lord. But a sheep, Moses, which had been saved from the wolves, the Egyptians, fled and escaped to the wild asses, the Ishmaelites. And I saw the sheep, the Hebrews, moaning and crying out, and petitioning the Lord with all their power, until that Lord of the sheep, God, came down at the call of the sheep, the Hebrews, from a high room, heaven, and came to them and looked at them. And he called that sheep, Moses. which had fled from the wolves, the Egyptians, and spoke to it about the wolves, the Egyptians, that it should warn them that they should not touch the sheep, the Hebrews. And the sheep, Moses, went to the wolves, the Egyptians, in accordance with the word of the Lord. And another sheep, Aaron, met that sheep and went with it. And the two of them together entered the assembly of those wolves, the Egyptians, spoke to them, and warned them that from then on they should not touch those sheep, the Hebrews. And after this I saw the wolves, the Egyptians, how they acted even more harshly towards the sheep, the Hebrews, with all their power, and the sheep, the Hebrews, called out. And their Lord came to the sheep, the Hebrews, and began to beat those wolves, the Egyptians. And the wolves, the Egyptians, began to moan. But the sheep, the Hebrews, became silent, and from then on they did not cry out. And I looked at the sheep, the Hebrews, until they escaped from the wolves, the Egyptians. But the eyes of the wolves, the Egyptians, were blinded, and those wolves, the Egyptians, went out in pursuit of the sheep, the Hebrews, with all their forces. And the Lord of the sheep, God, went with them, as he led them, and all his sheep, the Hebrews, followed him. And his face was glorious, and his appearance terrible and magnificent. But the wolves, the Egyptians, began to pursue those sheep, the Hebrews, until they met them by a stretch of water, the Red Sea. And that stretch of water, the Red Sea, was divided, and the water stood on one side, and on the other, before them. And their Lord, as he led them, stood between them and the wolves, the Egyptians. And while those wolves, the Egyptians, had not yet seen the sheep, the Hebrews, they went into the middle of that stretch of water. But the wolves, the Egyptians, pursued the sheep, the Hebrews. And those wolves, the Egyptians, ran after them into that stretch of water, the Red Sea. But when they saw the Lord of the sheep, God, they turned to flee in front of him. But that stretch of water, the Red Sea, flowed together again, and suddenly resumed its natural form, and the water swelled up and rose until it covered those wolves, the Egyptians. And I looked until all the wolves, the Egyptians, that had pursued those sheep, the Hebrews, were destroyed and drowned. But the sheep, the Hebrews, escaped that water, and went to a desert where there was neither grass nor water. And they began to open their eyes and see. And I saw the Lord of the sheep, God, pasturing them, and giving them water and grass. And that sheep were going and leading them. And that sheep, Moses, went to the summit of a high rock, Mount Sinai. And that Lord of the sheep, God, sent it to them. And after this I saw the Lord of the sheep, God, standing before them. And his appearance was terrible and majestic. And all those sheep, the Hebrews, saw him and were afraid of him. And all of them were afraid and trembled before him. And they cried out to that sheep, Moses, with those who were in their midst, "We cannot stand before our Lord, nor look at him." Then that sheep, Moses, which led them, again went to the summit of that rock, Mount Sinai. And the sheep, the Hebrews, began to be blinded, and go astray from the path which had been shown to them. But that sheep, Moses, did not know. And the Lord of the sheep, God, was extremely angry with them. And that sheep, Moses, knew, and went down from the summit of that rock, Mount Sinai, and came to the sheep, the Hebrews, and found the majority of them with their eyes blinded, and going astray from his path. And when they saw it, they were afraid and trembled before it, and wished that they could return to their enclosure. And that sheep, Moses, took some other sheep, Hebrews, with it, and went to those sheep, the Hebrews, that had gone astray, and they began to kill them. And the sheep, the Hebrews, were afraid of it. And that sheep, Moses, brought back those sheep, the Hebrews, that had gone astray, and they returned to their enclosures. And I looked there at the vision until that sheep, Moses, became a man, and built a house, the desert tabernacle, for the Lord of the sheep, and made all the sheep stand in that house. And I looked until that sheep, Aaron, which had met that sheep, Moses, that led the sheep, the Hebrews, fell asleep, died. And I looked until all the large sheep were destroyed, and small ones arose in their place. And they came to a pasture, and drew near a river of water, the river Jordan. And that sheep that led them, Moses, which had become a man, separated from them, and fell asleep, died. And all the sheep, the Hebrews, sought it, and cried out very bitterly over it. And I looked until they left off crying for that sheep, Moses, and crossed that river of water, the river Jordan. And there arose all the sheep, the judges of Israel, that led them, in place of those which had fallen asleep, died, and they led. And I looked until the sheep came to a good place in a pleasant, glorious land, Canaan. And I looked until those sheep, the Hebrews, were satisfied. And that house, tabernacle, was in the middle of them in that green and pleasant land. And sometimes their eyes were opened, and sometimes blinded, until another sheep, Samuel, rose up, led them, and brought them all back, and their eyes were opened. And the dogs, and the foxes, and the wild boars began to devour those sheep, the Hebrews, until the Lord of the sheep, God, raised up a ram, King Saul, from among them, which led them. In that ram, King Saul began to butt those dogs, Philistines, foxes, and wild boars, on one side and on the other, until it destroyed them all. And the eyes of that sheep, Samuel, were opened, and it saw that ram, King Saul, in the middle of the sheep, the Hebrews, how it renounced its glory, and began to butt those sheep, the Hebrews, and how it trampled on them and behaved inappropriately. And the Lord of the sheep, God, sent the sheep, the Hebrews, to another sheep, David, and raised it up to be a ram, king, and to lead the sheep, the Hebrews, in place of that sheep, Saul, which had renounced its glory. And it went to it, and spoke with it alone, and raised up that ram, King David, and made it the prince and leader of the sheep, the Hebrews. And during all this, those dogs, Philistines, oppressed the sheep. And the first ram, Saul, pursued the second ram, David, and that second ram, David, rose and fled before it. And I looked until those dogs, Philistines, made the first ram, Saul, fall. And that second ram, David, rose up and led the small sheep, the Hebrews. And the ram, David, fathered many sheep, and fell asleep, died. And a small sheep, Solomon, became a ram, king, in place of it, and became the prince and leader of those sheep, the Hebrews. And those sheep, Hebrews, grew and increased, but all the dogs, Philistines, and foxes, and wild boars were afraid and fled from it. And that ram, King Solomon, butted and killed all the animals. And those animals did not again prevail against the sheep, the Hebrews, and did not seize anything further from them. And that house became large and broad, and for those sheep, the Hebrews, a high tower, temple, was built on that house for the Lord of the sheep, God. And that house was low, but the tower, temple, was raised up high. And the Lord of the sheep, God, stood on that tower, temple, and they spread a full table before him. And I saw those sheep, the Hebrews, again, how they went astray, and walked in many ways, and left that house of theirs. And the Lord of the sheep, God, called some of the sheep, the Hebrews, and sent them to the sheep, the prophets. But the sheep, the Hebrews, began to kill them. But one of them, Elijah, was saved, and was not killed. And it sprang away, and cried out against the sheep, the Hebrews. And they wished to kill it, but the Lord of the sheep, God, saved it from the hands of the sheep, the Hebrews, brought it up to me, and made it stay. And he sent many other sheep, prophets, to those sheep, Hebrews, to bear witness to them, and to lament over them. And after this I saw how, when they left the house of the Lord of the sheep, God, and his tower, temple, they went astray in everything, and their eyes were blinded. And I saw how the Lord of the sheep, God, did much slaughter among them in their pastures, until those sheep, the Hebrews, invited that slaughter, and betrayed his place. And he gave them into the hands of the lions, and the tigers, and the wolves, and the hyenas, and into the hands of the foxes, and to all the animals, nations. And those wild animals began to tear those sheep, the Hebrews, in pieces. And I saw how he left that house of theirs. The Levites took the ark, and their tower, the temple, and gave them all into the hands of the lions, Assyrians, so that they might tear them in pieces and devour them, and into the hands of all the animals, nations. And I began to cry out with all my power, to call the Lord of the sheep, God, and to represent to him concerning the sheep, the Hebrews, that all the wild animals were devouring them. But he remained still, although he saw, and he rejoiced that they were devoured, swallowed up and carried off. And he gave them into the hands of all the animals for food. And he called 70 shepherds, religious leaders, and cast off those sheep, so that they might pasture them. And he said to the shepherds and to their companions, Each one of you from now on is to pasture the sheep, the Hebrews. and to do whatever I command you. And I will hand them over to you, properly numbered, and I will tell you which of them are to be destroyed, and destroy them. And he handed those sheep, the Hebrews, over to them. And he called another and said to him, Observe and see everything that these shepherds do against these sheep, the Hebrews, for they will destroy from among them more than I have commanded them. And write down all the excess and destruction which is done by the shepherds, how many they destroy at my command, and how many they destroy at their own violation. Write down against each shepherd individual all that he destroys, and read out in front of me exactly how many they destroy of their own violation, and how many are handed over for destruction, so that this may be evidence for me against them, so that I may know all the deeds of the shepherds in order to hand them over for judgment. And I will see what they do, whether they abide by my command with which I have commanded them or not. But they must not know this, and you must not show this to them, but only write down against each individual in his time all that the shepherds destroy, and bring it all up to me. And I looked until those shepherds pastured at their times, and they began to kill and destroy more than they were commanded. And they gave those sheep, the Hebrews, into the hands of the lions, the Assyrians. And the lions and the tigers devoured and swallowed up the majority of those sheep, the Hebrews, and the wild boars devoured with them. And they burned down that tower, the temple, and demolished that house. And I was extremely sad about the tower, temple, because that house of the sheep had been demolished. And after that I was unable to see whether those sheep went into that house. And the shepherds and their companions handed those sheep, the Hebrews, over to all the animals, nations, so that they might devour them. Each one of them at his time received an exact number, and for each of them, one after the other, there was written in a scroll how many of them were destroyed. And each one killed and destroyed more than was prescribed, and I began to weep and moan very much because of those sheep, Hebrews. And likewise, in the vision, I saw that one who wrote, how each day he wrote down each one that was destroyed by those shepherds. And he brought up and presented the whole scroll to the Lord of the sheep, everything they had done, and all that each one of them had made away with, and all that they had handed to destruction. And the scroll was read out in front of the Lord of sheep, God, and he took the scroll in his hand, read it, sealed it, and put it down. And after this I saw how the shepherds pastured for 12 hours, and 3 of those sheep, Ezra, Haggai, and Zechariah, returned, the return after exile, and arrived, and came and began to build up all that had fallen down from that house. But the wild boars, Samaritans, hindered them so that they could not. And they again began to build as before, and they raised up that tower, and it was called the High Tower, the second temple. And they began again to place a table before the tower, the second temple, but all the bread on it was unclean and was not pure. And, besides all this, the eyes of these sheep were blinded so that they could not see, and their shepherds likewise. And they handed yet more of them over to destruction, and they trampled on the sheep, the Hebrews, with their feet, and devoured them. But the Lord of the sheep, God, remained still, until all the sheep were scattered abroad, and had mixed with them, and they did not save them from the hands of the animals, nations. And that one who wrote the scroll brought it up, showed it, and read it out in the dwelling of the Lord of the sheep, God. And he begged them on behalf of them, and petitioned him, as he showed him all the deeds of their shepherds, and testified in front of him against all the shepherds. And he took the scroll, put it down by him, and went out. And I looked until the time that 35 shepherds, the kings of Babylon, had pastured the sheep the same way, and each individually. They all completed their time like the first ones, and others received them into their hands to pasture them, at their time, each shepherd at his own time. And after this I saw in the vision all the birds of the sky coming, the eagles, the vultures, the kites, and the ravens, Syrians. But the eagles, Romans, led all the birds, and they began to devour those sheep, to peck their eyes out, and to devour their flesh. And the sheep, the Hebrews, cried out because the birds devoured their flesh. And I cried out and lamented in my sleep because of that shepherd who pastured the sheep, the Hebrews. And I looked until those sheep, the Hebrews, were devoured by those dogs, and by the eagles, the Romans, and by the kites, and they left them neither flesh nor skin nor tendon, until only their bones remained. And their bones fell upon the ground, and the sheep, Hebrews, became few. And I looked until the time that 23 shepherds had pastured, and they completed, each in his time, 58 times. And small lambs were born from those white sheep, and they began to open their eyes to see and to cry to the sheep, the Hebrews. But the sheep, the Hebrews, did not cry to them, and did not listen to what they said to them, but were extremely deaf, and their eyes were extremely and excessively blinded. And I saw in the vision how the ravens flew upon those lambs, and took one of those lambs, John the Baptist, and dashed the sheep to pieces, and devoured them. And I looked until horns came up on those lambs, but the ravens cast their horns down. And I looked until a big horn, the Messiah, grew on one of those sheep, the Hebrews, and their eyes were opened. And it looked at them, and their eyes were opened. And it cried to the sheep, the Hebrews, and the rams saw it, and they all ran to it. And besides all this, those eagles, the Romans, and vultures, and ravens, and kites, were all continually tearing the sheep, the Hebrews, in pieces, and flying upon them and devouring them. And the sheep, the Hebrews, were silent, but the rams lamented and cried out. And those ravens battled and fought with it, the Messiah, and wished to make away with its horn, but they did not prevail against it. And I looked at them until the shepherds and the eagles, Romans, and the vultures, and kites, came and cried to the ravens that they should dash the horn of that ram, the Messiah, in pieces. And they fought and battled with it. And it fought with them and cried out so that its help might come to it. And I looked until that man, who wrote down the names of the shepherds and brought them up before the Lord of the sheep, God, came, and he helped the ram, the Messiah, and showed it everything. Its help was coming down. And I looked until the Lord of the sheep, God, came to them in anger, and all those who saw him fled, and they all fell into the shadow in front of him. All the eagles, Romans, and vultures, and ravens, and kites gathered together, and brought with them all the wild sheep. And they all came together and helped one another in order to dash the horn of that ram, the Messiah, in pieces. And I looked at that man who wrote the scroll at the command of the Lord, until he opened that scroll of the destruction that those last 12 shepherds had made, the Christian era, and he showed in front of the Lord of the sheep, God, that they had destroyed even more than those before them had. And I looked until the Lord of the sheep, God, came to them, and took the staff of his anger, and struck the earth, the return of the Messiah. And the earth was split, and all the animals and the birds of the sky fell from those sheep, and sank into the earth, and it closed over them. And I looked until a big sword was given to the sheep, the Hebrews, and the sheep, the Hebrews, went out against all the wild animals to kill them. And all the animals and birds of the sky fled before them. And I looked until a throne was set up in a pleasant land, and the Lord of the sheep, God, sat on it. And they took all the sealed scrolls, and opened the scrolls in front of the Lord of the sheep, God. And the Lord called those men, the 7 first white ones, and commanded them to bring in front of him the first star, Azazel, which went before those stars, whose private parts were like horses, and they brought them all in front of him. And he said to that man who wrote in front of him, who was one of the 7 white ones, he said to him, Take those 70 shepherds, to whom I handed over the sheep, and who, on their own authority, took and killed more than I commanded them. And I saw them all bound, and they all stood in front of him. And the judgment was held, first on the stars, the watchers, and they were judged and found guilty, and they went to the place of damnation, and were thrown into a deep place full of burning fire, and full of pillars of fire. And those 70 shepherds were judged and found guilty, and they also were thrown into that abyss of fire. And I saw at that time how a similar abyss was opened in the middle of the earth, which was full of fire, and they brought those blind sheep, and they were all judged and found guilty, and thrown into that abyss of fire, and they burned. And that abyss was on the south of that house. And I saw those sheep burning, and their bones were burning. And I stood up to look until he folded up that old house, the earth, and they removed all the pillars, and all the beams and ornament of that house, the earth. And they removed it, and put it in a place to the south. And I looked until the Lord of the sheep, God, brought a new house, larger and higher than the first one, the new Jerusalem, and he set it up on the site of the first one that had been folded up. And all its pillars were new, and its ornaments were new and larger than that of the first one, the old one that had been removed. And the Lord of the sheep, God, was in the middle of it. And I saw all the sheep that were left, and all the animals of the earth, and all the birds of the sky falling down and worshipping those sheep, and begging them and obeying them in every command. And after this, those 3 who were dressed in white, and had taken hold of my hand, the ones who had brought me up at first, they with the hand of the ram, the Messiah, also holding me, took me up, and put me down in the middle of those sheep, before the judgment was held. And those sheep were all white, and their wool thick and pure. And all those which had been destroyed and scattered, and all the wild animals, and all the birds of the sky, gathered together in that house. And the Lord of the sheep, God, rejoiced very much, because they were all good, and had returned to his house. And I looked until they had laid down that sword which had been given to the sheep, and they brought it back into its house, and it was sealed in front of the Lord. And all the sheep were enclosed in that house, but it did not hold them. For the eyes of all of them were opened, and they saw well, and there was not one among them that did not see. And I saw that the house was large, broad, and exceptionally full. And I saw how a white foal was born, and its horns were big, and all the wild animals and all the birds of the sky were afraid of it, and begged it continually. And I looked until all their species were transformed, and they all became white bulls. And the first among them was a wild ox. And that wild ox was a large animal, and had big black horns on its head. And the Lord of the sheep, God, rejoiced over them, and over all the bulls. And I was asleep in the middle of them, and I woke up and saw everything. And this is the vision which I saw while I was asleep. And I woke up, blessed the Lord of righteousness, and ascribed glory to him. But after this I wept bitterly, and my tears did not stop until I could no longer endure it. When I looked, they ran down because of what I saw, for everything will come to pass and be fulfilled. And all the deeds of men, in their order, were shown to me. That night I remembered my first dream, and because of it I wept, and was disturbed, because I had seen that vision. 19. Prophecy of the 10 Weeks. Now, my son Methuselah, call all your brothers to me, and gather to me all the children of your mother. For a voice calls me, and a spirit has been poured over me, so that I may show you everything that will come upon you forever. Then Methuselah went and called his brothers to him, and gathered his relatives. And he spoke about righteousness to all his sons, and said, Hear, my children, all the words of your father, and listen properly to the voice of my mouth. For I will testify and speak to you, my beloved. Love uprightness and walk in it. Do not draw near to uprightness with a deceitful heart, and do not associate with those of a deceitful heart. But walk in righteousness, my children, and it will lead you in the good path, and righteousness will be your companion. For I know that the state of wrongdoing will continue on earth, and a great punishment will be carried out on the earth, and an end will be made of all iniquity. It will be cut off at its roots, and its whole territory will pass away. Iniquity will again be complete on the earth, and all the deeds of iniquity and the deeds of oppression and wickedness will prevail for a second time. Written by Enoch the scribe, this complete wisdom and teaching, praised by all men and a judge of the whole earth, and for all my sons who dwell on earth, and for the future generations who will practice justice and peace. Don't let your spirit be saddened by the times, for the Holy and Great One has appointed days for all things. And the righteous man will rise and will walk in the path of righteousness, and all his paths and his journeys will be in eternal goodness and mercy. He will show mercy to the righteous man, and to him give eternal uprightness, and to him give power. He will live in goodness and righteousness, and will walk in eternal light. Then sin will be destroyed in darkness forever, and from that day will never be seen again. And after that Enoch began to speak from the scrolls. Enoch said, Concerning the sons of righteousness, and concerning the elect of the world, and concerning the plant of righteousness and uprightness, I will speak these things to you, and make them known to you, my children. I, Enoch, according to that which appeared to me in the heavenly vision, and that which I know from the words of the holy angels, and understanding from the tablets of heaven. Then Enoch began to speak from the scrolls, and said, I was born the 7th, in the 1st week, while justice and righteousness still lasted. But after me, in the 2nd week, great injustice will arise, and deceit will have sprung up. And in it there will be the first end, and in it a man will be saved. After it has ended, iniquity will grow, and he will make a law for the sinners. Then after that, in the 3rd week, at its end, a man will be chosen as the plant of righteous judgment, and after him will come the plant of righteousness forever. And after that, in the 4th week, at its end, visions of the righteous and holy will be seen, and a law for all generations, and an enclosure will be made for them. And after that, in the 5th week, at its end, a house of glory and sovereignty will be built forever. And after that, in the 6th week, All those who live in it will be blinded, and the hearts of them, lacking wisdom, will sink into ungodliness. And in it a man will ascend, and at its end the house of sovereignty will be burned with fire, and in it the whole race of the elect root will be scattered. And after that, in the 7th week, a rebellious generation will rise, and its deeds will be many, but its deeds will be rebellious. And at its end, the elect righteous from the eternal plant of righteousness will be chosen, to whom will be given 7 portions of teaching concerning his whole creation. But when iniquity, sin, blasphemy, wrong, and all kinds of evil deeds increase, and when rebelliousness, wickedness, and uncleanness increase, a great punishment will come from heaven upon all these. And the Holy Lord will come in anger and in wrath to execute judgment on the earth. In those days wrongdoing will be cut off at its roots, and the roots of iniquity, together with deceit, will be destroyed from under heaven. And all the idols of the nations will be given up. Their towers will be burned in fire, and they will remove them from the whole earth. And they will be thrown down into the judgment of fire, and will be destroyed in anger, in the severe judgment that is forever. And the righteous will rise from sleep, and wisdom will rise and will be given to them. After this, the roots of iniquity will be cut off, and the sword will destroy the sinners. The blasphemers will be cut off. In every place blasphemy will be destroyed by the sword. And after that there will be another week, the 8th, that of righteousness. And a sword will be given at that time, so the righteous judgment may be executed on those who do wrong. And the sinners will be handed over into the hands of the righteous. And at its end they will acquire houses because of their righteousness. And a house will be built for the great King in glory forever. And after that, in the 9th week, the righteous judgment will be revealed to the whole world, and all the deeds of the ungodly will vanish from the whole earth, and the world will be written down for destruction, and all men will look to the path of uprightness. Then, after that, in the 10th week, in the 7th part, there will be an eternal judgment that will be executed on the watchers in the great eternal heaven that will spring from the midst of the angels. The first heaven will vanish and pass away, and a new heaven will appear. And all the powers of heaven will shine forever, with 7 times the light. After this there will be many weeks without number, forever in goodness and in righteousness. And from then on sin will never again be mentioned. And now I tell you, my children, and show you the path of righteousness, and the path of wrongdoing. And I will show you again, so that you may know what is to come. Now listen, my children. Walk in the paths of righteousness, and do not walk in the paths of wrongdoing, for all those who walk in the path of iniquity will be destroyed forever. For is there any man who can hear the voice of the Holy One and not be disturbed? And who is there who can think his thoughts? And who is there who can look at all the works of heaven? And how should there be any one who could understand the works of heaven, and see a soul, or a spirit, and tell about it? Or ascend and see all their ends and comprehend them, or make anything like them? And is there any man who could know the length and width of the earth? And to who has all its measurements been shown? Or is there any man who could know the length of heaven, and what is its height, and on what is it fixed? And how great is the number of stars, and where do all the lights rest? 20. Enoch's message of guidance. Now I say to you, my children, love righteousness and walk in it, for the paths of righteousness are worthy of acceptance, but the paths of iniquity will quickly be destroyed and vanish. And to certain men from a future generation the paths of wrongdoing and of death will be revealed, and they will keep away from them and will not follow them. Now I say to you, the righteous, don't walk in the wicked path, or in wrongdoing, or in the paths of death, and don't draw near to them, or you may be destroyed. But seek and choose for yourself righteousness and a life that is pleasing, and walk in the paths of peace, so that you may live and prosper. And hold my words firmly in the thoughts of your heart, and do not let them be erased from your heart. For I know that sinners will tempt men to disgrace wisdom, and no place will be found for it, and temptation will in no way decrease. Woe to those who build iniquity and found deceit, for they will quickly be thrown down and will have no peace. Woe to those who build their houses with sin, for from their whole foundation they will be thrown down, and by the sword they will fall. and those who acquire gold and silver will quickly be destroyed in the judgment. Woe to you, you rich, for you have trusted in your riches, but from your riches you will depart, for you did not remember the Most High in the days of your riches. You have committed blasphemy and iniquity, and you are ready for the days of the outpouring of blood, and for the days of darkness, and for the day of the great judgment. I say this, and make known to you, that he who created you will throw you down, and over your fall there will be no mercy, but your Creator will rejoice at your destruction. Your righteousness in those days will be a reproach to the sinners and to the ungodly. Oh, that my eyes were a rain cloud, that I might weep over you, and pour out my tears like rain, so that I might have rest from the sorrow of my heart. Who permitted you to practice hatred and wickedness? May judgment come upon you, the sinners. Don't be afraid of the sinners, you righteous, for the Lord will again deliver them into your hands, so that you may execute judgment on them as you desire. Woe to you who pronounce curses that you cannot remove. Healing will be far from you because of your sin. Woe to you who repay your neighbors with evil, for you will be repaid according to your deeds. Woe to you, you lying witnesses, and to those who weigh out iniquity, for you will be quickly destroyed. Woe to you, you sinners, because you persecute the righteous, for you yourselves will be handed over and persecuted, you men of iniquity, and their yoke will be heavy on you. Be hopeful, you righteous, for the sinners will quickly be destroyed before you, and you will have power over them as you desire. And in the day of the tribulation of the sinners, your young will rise up like eagles, and your nest will be higher than that of vultures. You will go up, and like badgers enter the crevices of the earth, in the clefts of the rock forever, before the lawless, but they will groan and weep because of you, like mountain goats. And do not be afraid, you who have suffered, for you will receive healing, and a bright light will shine upon you, and you will hear the voice of rest from heaven. Woe to you, you sinners, for your riches make you appear righteous, but your hearts prove you to be sinners. This word will be a testimony against you as a reminder of your evil deeds. Woe to you who devour the finest of wheat, and drink the best of water, and trample upon the humble through your power. Woe to you who drink water all the time, for you will quickly be repaid, and you will become exhausted and dry, for you have left the spring of life. Woe to you who commit iniquity and deceit and blasphemy. It will be a reminder of evil against you. Woe to you, you powerful, who through power oppress the righteous, for the day of your destruction will come. In those days many good days will come for the righteous in the day of your judgment. Believe, you righteous, that the sinners will become an object of shame and will be destroyed on the day of judgment. It will be known to you, sinners, that the Most High remembers your destruction, and that the angels rejoice over your destruction. What will you do, sinners, and where will you flee on that day of judgment, when you hear the sound of prayer of the righteous? But you will not be like them against whom this word will be a testimony. You have been associated with the sinners. And in those days the prayer of the holy will be in front of the Lord, and from you will come the days of your judgment. And the word of your iniquity will be read out before the great and holy one, and your faces will blush with shame, and every deed which is founded upon iniquity will be rejected. Woe to you, you sinners, who are in the middle of the sea, or on dry ground, their memory will be harmful to you. Woe to you who acquire silver and gold, but not in righteousness, and say, We have become very rich, and have possessions, and have acquired everything that we desired. And now let us do what we planned, for we have gathered silver and filled our storehouses, and as many as water are the servants of our houses, and like water your life will flow away. For your riches will not stay with you, but will quickly ascend from you. For you acquired everything in iniquity, and you will be given over to great condemnation. Now I swear to you, the wise and the foolish, that you will see many things on the earth. For you men will put more adornments on yourselves than women, and more colored garments than a girl, clothed in sovereignty, and in majesty, and in power, and silver, and gold, and purple, and honors, and food will be poured out like water. Because of this they will have neither knowledge nor wisdom, and through this they will be destroyed, together with their possessions, and with all their glory and their honor. In shame and in slaughter and in great poverty their spirits will be thrown into the fiery furnace. I swear to you, you sinners, that as a mountain has not and will not become a slave, nor a hill a woman's maid, no sin was sent on earth, but man of himself created it, and those who commit it will be subject to a great curse. And barrenness has not been given to a woman, but because of the deeds of her hands she dies without children. I swear to you, you sinners, by the Holy and Great One, that all your evil deeds are revealed in heaven, and that your wrongdoing is never covered or hidden. And don't think in your spirit, nor say in your heart that you don't know, or don't see. Every sin is written down every day in heaven in front of the Most High. From now on you know that all your wrongdoing that you do will be written down every day, until the day of your judgment. Woe to you, you fools, for you will be destroyed through your foolishness. And you don't listen to the wise, and good will not come upon you. And now know that you are ready for the day of destruction. And don't hope that you will live, you sinners. Rather, you will go and die, for you know no ransom. You are ready for the day of the great judgment, and for the day of tribulation, and great shame for your spirits. Woe to you, you stubborn of heart, who do evil and eat blood. From where do you have good things to eat, and drink, and to be satisfied? From all the good things which our Lord the Most High has placed in abundance on the earth. Therefore you will have no peace. Woe to you who love deeds of iniquity. Why do you hope for good for yourselves? Know that you will be given into the hands of the righteous, and they will cut your throats and kill you, and will not have mercy on you. Woe to you who rejoice in the torments of the righteous, for graves will not be dug for you. Woe to you who declare the words of the righteous empty, for you will have no hope of life. Woe to you who write lying words, and the words of the ungodly, for they write their lies so that men may hear and continue their foolishness. And they will not have peace, but will die a sudden death. Woe to you who do ungodly deeds and praise and honor lying words. You will be destroyed and not have a good life. Woe to you who alter the words of truth, and distort the eternal law, and count themselves as being without sin. They will be trampled underfoot on the ground. In those days make ready, you righteous, to raise your prayers as a reminder, and lay them as a testimony before the angels, that they may lay the sins of the sinners before the Most High as a reminder. In those days the nations will be thrown into confusion, and the races of the nations will rise on the day of destruction. And in those days the women will become pregnant and abort their babies, and cast them out from their midst, so that their children will perish through them. Yes, they will abandon their children that are still sucklings, and not return to them, and will not have mercy on their beloved ones. And again I swear to you, the sinners, that sin is ready for the day of unceasing bloodshed. And they worship stone, and some carve images of gold and silver, and some of wood and clay. And some, with no knowledge, worship unclean spirits and demons, and even the temples themselves. But no help will be obtained from them, and they will sink into ungodliness because of the foolishness of their hearts, and their eyes will be blinded through the fear of their hearts, and through the vision of their ambitions. Through these they will become ungodly and fearful, for they do all their deeds with lies, and worship stones, and they will be destroyed at the same moment. In those days blessed are those who accept the words of wisdom, and understand them, and follow the paths of the Most High, and walk in the path of righteousness, and don't act wickedly with the ungodly, for the righteous will be saved. Woe to you who extend evil to your neighbors, for you will be killed in Sheol. Woe to you who lay foundations of sin and deceit, and who cause bitterness on the earth, for because of this an end will be made of them. Woe to you who build your houses with the labor of others, and all their building materials are the sticks and stones of sin. I say to you, you will have no peace. Woe to those who reject the measure and the eternal inheritance of their fathers, and cause their souls to follow error, for they will have no rest. Woe to those who commit iniquity, and help wrong, and kill their neighbors until the day of the great judgment, for he will throw down your glory. You put evil into your hearts, and rouse the spirit of his anger, so that he may destroy you all with the sword. And all the righteous and the holy will remember your sin. And in those days, and in one place, fathers and sons will strike one another, and brothers will together fall in death, until their blood flows as if it were a stream. For a man will not, in mercy, withhold his hand from his sons, nor from his sons' sons, in order to kill them. And the sinner will not withhold his hand from his honored brother. From dawn until the sun sets, they will kill one another. The horse will walk to its breast in the blood of the sinners, and the chariot will sink up to its height. And in those days the angels will come down into the hidden places, and gather together in one place all those who have helped sin. And the Most High will rise on that day to execute the great judgment on all the sinners. And he will set guards from the holy angels over the righteous and holy, and they will guard them like the apple of an eye, until an end is made of all evil and all sin. And even if the righteous sleep a long sleep, they have nothing to fear. And the wise men will see the truth, and the sons of the earth will understand all the words of this book, and they will know that their riches will not be able to save them or overthrow their sin. Woe to you, you sinners, when you afflict the righteous on the day of severe trouble, and burn them with fire. You will be repaid according to your deeds. Woe to you, you perverse of heart, who watch to devise evil. Fear will come upon you, and there is no one who will help you. Woe to you, you sinners, for an account of the words of your mouth, and for an account of the deeds of your hands, that you have wickedly done. You will burn in blazing flames of fire. And now know that the angels will inquire in heaven into your deeds, from the sun, and the moon, and the stars, into your sins. For on earth you execute judgment on the righteous, and all the clouds and mist and dew and rain will testify against you, for they will be withheld from you so that they don't fall on you, and they will think about your sins. And now give gifts to the rain, so that it may not be withheld from falling on you, and so that the dew, if it has accepted gold and silver from you, may fall. When the ice and snow with their cold, and all the snow winds with their torment fall on you, in those days you will not be able to stand before them. Consider heaven, all you sons of heaven, and all the words of the Most High, and fear him, and never do evil in front of him. If he closes the windows of heaven and withholds the rain and the dew, so that it does not fall on the earth because of you, what will you do? And if he sends his anger upon you, and upon all your deeds, will you not petition him? For you speak proud and harsh words against his righteousness, and you will have no peace. And do you not see the captains of the ships, how their ships are tossed by the waves and rocked by the winds and are troubled? And because of this they are afraid, for all their good possessions go out in the sea with them. And they think nothing good in their hearts, only that the sea will swallow them up, and that they will be destroyed in it. Is not all the sea, and all its water, and all its movements the work of the Most High? And did he not seal its entire doings, and bind it all with sand? And at his rebuke it dries up and becomes afraid, and all its fish die and everything in it. But you sinners who are on the earth don't fear him. Did he not make heaven, earth, and everything that is in them? And who gave knowledge and wisdom to all things that move on the ground and in the sea? And do those captains of the ship not fear the sea? Yet you sinners do not fear the Most High. In those days, if he brings a fierce fire upon you, where will you flee, and where will you be safe? When he utters his voice against you, will you not be terrified and afraid? All the lights will shake with great fear, and the whole earth will be terrified, and will tremble and quake. All the angels will carry out their commands, and will try to hide from the one who is great in glory, and the children of the earth will tremble and shake, and you sinners will be cursed forever, and will have no peace. Don't be afraid, you souls of the righteous, be hopeful. You will have died in righteousness. Don't be sad that your souls have gone down into Sheol in sadness, and that your bodies did not obtain a reward during your life in accordance with your goodness. But when you die, the sinners will say about you, "As we die, the righteous have also died, and of what use to them were their deeds?" Listen, like us they have died in sadness and in darkness, and what advantage do they have over us? From now on we are equal. And what will they receive, and what will they see forever? For they too have died, and from now on they will never again see the light. And I say to you, you sinners, you are content to eat and drink, and strip men naked, and steal and sin, and acquire possessions, and see good days. But you saw the righteous, how their end was peace, for no wrong was found in them until the day of their death. But they were destroyed and became as though they had never been, and their souls went down to Sheol in torment. And now I swear to you, the righteous, by his great glory and his honor, and by his magnificent sovereignty, and by his majesty, I swear to you that I understand this mystery. I have read the tablets of heaven and seen the writings of the holy ones, and I found written and engraved in it concerning them that all good and joy and honor have been made ready and written down for the spirits of those who died in righteousness. And much good will be given to you in compensation for the labor, and that your lot will be more excellent than the lot of the living. The spirits of you who have died in righteousness will live, and your spirits will rejoice and be glad, and the memory of them will remain in front of the Great One for all the generations of eternity. Therefore don't fear their abuse. Woe to you, you sinners, when you die in your sin, and those who are like you say about you, Blessed were the sinners, they saw all their days, and now they have died in prosperity and wealth. They did not see torment and slaughter during their life, but they have died in glory, and judgment was not executed on them in their life. Know that their souls will be made to go down into Sheol. They will be miserable, and their torment will be great. And in darkness, and in chains, and in burning flames your spirits will come to the great judgment, and the great judgment will last for all the generations forever. Woe to you, for you will have no peace. Do not say to the righteous and the good who in life, in the days of our affliction, we worked laboriously, and saw every affliction, and met many evils. We were diminished and became few, and our spirit has become small. We were destroyed, and there was no one who helped us with words or with deeds. We were powerless and found nothing. We were tortured and destroyed, and did not expect to see life from one day to the next. We hoped to become the head, but became the tail. We worked and labored, but were not masters of the fruits of our labor. We became food for the sinners, and the lawless made their yoke heavy upon us. Those who hated us and those who beat us became our rulers. And to those who hated us we bowed our necks, but they did not have mercy on us. We sought to escape from them, so that we might flee and be at rest, but we found no place where we might flee and be safe from them. We complained about them to the rulers in our distress, and cried out against those who devoured us, but they took no notice of our cries, and did not wish to listen to our voice. They helped those who plundered us and devoured us, and those who made us few, and they hid their wrongdoing, and did not remove from us the yoke of those who devoured us, and scattered us, and killed us. They concealed our slaughter, and did not remember that they had raised their hands against us. I swear to you, you righteous, that in heaven the angels remember you for good, in front of the glory of the Great One, and that your names are written down in front of the glory of the Great One. Be hopeful, for you were formerly put to shame through evils and afflictions, but now you will shine like the lights of heaven, and will be seen, and the gate of heaven will be opened to you. Carry on in your cry for judgment, and it will appear to you, for justice will be exacted on the rulers for all your torment, and from all those who helped those who plundered you. Be hopeful and don't abandon your hope, for you will have great joy like the angels in heaven. What will you have to do? You will not have to hide on the day of the great judgment, nor will you be found to be sinners. The eternal judgment will be upon you for all the generations of eternity. And now don't be afraid, you righteous, when you see the sinners growing strong and prospering in their desires, and don't be associated with them, but keep far away from their wrongdoing, for you will be associates of the host of heaven. Although you sinners say, None of our sins will be inquired into and written down, but they will write down your sins every day. And now I show you that light and darkness, day and night, see all your sins. Don't be ungodly in your hearts, and don't lie, and don't alter the words of truth, nor say that the words of the Holy and Great One are lies. And don't praise your idols, for all your lies and all your ungodliness don't lead to righteous, but to great sin. And now I know this mystery, that many sinners will alter and distort the words of truth, and speak evil words, and lie, and concoct great fabrications, and write books in their own words. But when they write my words exactly in their languages, and do not alter or omit anything from my words, but write everything exactly, everything that I testified about before, then I know another mystery, that books will be given to the righteous and wise, and will be a source of joy and truth and much wisdom. And books will be given to them, and they will believe in them and rejoice over them. And all the righteous who have learned from them all the ways of truth will be glad. And in those days, says the Lord, They will call and testify to the sons of the earth about the wisdom in them. Show it to them, for you are their leaders, and the rewards will be all over the earth. For my son and I will join ourselves with them forever, in the paths of the uprightness during their lives, and you will have peace. Rejoice, you sons of uprightness. Amen. 21. Enoch's concluding words. Another scroll which Enoch wrote for his son Methuselah, and for those who come after him and keep the law in the last days. You who have observed and are waiting in these days, until an end is made of those who do evil, and an end is made of the power of the wrongdoers. Do indeed wait until sin passes away, for their names will be erased from the scrolls of the holy ones, and their offspring will be destroyed forever. Their spirits will be killed, and they will cry out and moan in a chaotic desert place, and will burn in fire, for there is no earth there. And there I saw something like a cloud, which could not be discerned, for because of its depth I was not able to look into it. And the flames of a fire I saw, burning brightly, and things like bright mountains revolved and shook from side to side. And I asked one of the holy angels who were with me, and I said to him, What is this bright place? For there is no sky, but only flames of a burning fire, and the sounds of crying, and weeping, and moaning, and severe pain. And he said to me, This place which you see, here the spirits of the sinners will be thrown, and of the blasphemers, and of those who do evil, and of those who alter everything that the Lord has spoken through the mouths of the prophets about the things that will be done. For there are scrolls and records about them in heaven above, so that the angels may read them and know what is about to come upon the sinners, and upon the spirits of the humble, and of those who afflicted their bodies and were compensated by God, and of those who were abused by evil men, those who loved God and did not love gold or silver or any possessions, but gave up their bodies to torment, those who, from the moment they existed, did not desire earthly food, but counted themselves as a breath which passes away, and lived accordingly. And the Lord tested them much, and their spirits were found pure, so that they might bless his name. I have recounted all their blessings in the scroll, and he has assigned them their reward. For they were found to be such that they loved heaven more than their life in the world, and although they were trampled underfoot by evil men, and had to listen to reviling and reproach from them, and were abused, they blessed the Lord. And the Lord said, Now I will call the spirits of the good, who are of the generation of light, and I will transform those who were born in darkness, who in the flesh were not compensated with honor as was fitting to their faith. And I will bring those who love my holy name out of the shining light, and I will set each one on the throne of his honor. And they will shine for times without number. For righteous is the judgment of God, for he will keep faith with the faithful in the dwelling of upright paths. And they will see those who were born in darkness thrown into the darkness, while the righteous shine. And the sinners will cry out as they see them shining, but they themselves will go where the days and times have been written down for them. Amen.